Chapter 2611 Hurricane Tunnel, Not Good. Lu Ming's expression changed drastically. The suction force at the front of the Pa-S sage was too strong. Lu Ming was not prepared at all and was sucked in at once. Buzz. Lu Ming was like a small boat in a huge wave, drifting with the current and being thrown out directly. Soon, they reached the end of the Pa-S sage. However, at the end of the Pa-S sage, there was an even larger Pa-S sage. The Pa-S sage that Lu Ming was in just now was just a branch. The two paths converged. Lu Ming was directly thrown into this larger Pa-S sage. Hoo. The larger Pa-S sage was at least a few thousand meters in diameter, and it was filled with endless gales that blew in one direction. It was because of this wind that the air current was able to produce such a terrifying attractive force. The endless gale blew on Lu Ming's body. It was like a sharp blade cutting into Lu Ming's body, causing him to feel a sharp pain. Lu Ming hurriedly circulated the power of domination all over his body to resist the attack of the strong wind. And NBSP hoo. The strong wind whistled as Lu Ming was carried by the strong wind and flew towards the front of the Pa-S sage at an extreme speed. In the blink of an eye, he had flown hundreds of miles. No, I can't keep being carried around like this. Lu Ming's mind was racing. He mustered all his strength and rushed to the side of the Pa-S sage. The side of the Pa-S sage was full of uneven rocks. When Lu Ming was near the side of the Pa-S sage, he grabbed a protruding rock and finally stabilized himself. There's a hurricane tunnel in the depths of this cave. Where does it lead to? Lu Ming started to think. Could it be that the true core of the cave abode was in the depths of the Pa-S sage, and he had to pass through the hurricane Pa-S sage to reach it? This was highly possible. Many experts would set up formations or traps around their cave abodes to block others. This hurricane Pa-S sage was most likely set up by the owner of the cave. Follow the side of the Pa-S sage and go in to take a look. Lu Ming had made up his mind. He did not want to give up and came here. Immediately, Lu Ming walked along the side of the Pa-S sage and climbed up the protruding rocks, slowly heading deeper into the Pa-S sage. However, Lu Ming realized that the closer he got to the depths of the Pa-S sage, the stronger the wind was. It was very energy-consuming for Lu Ming to resist the power of the hurricane. Every once in a while, Lu Ming would stop to rest and recover his energy. Just like that, Lu Ming walked for 3 days and still did not reach the end of the Pa-S sage. This tunnel seemed to be endless. Roar. At this moment, Lu Ming heard a beast's roar. Beast roar? What's going on? Oh. Are there still desolate beasts or divine beasts here? Lu Ming had a puzzled look on his face. However, at the next moment, his eyes widened. That was because he saw a huge wild beast soaring in the hurricane and flying toward Lu Ming. It was a strange desolate beast. Its body was like an eagle and was covered in green feathers. However, its head was that of a lion. It was Lu Ming's first time seeing such a dire beast with the head of a lion and the body of a bird. This wild beast was completely unafraid of the strong wind. It flapped its wings and flew against the wind. Its eyes were like lightning as it swept its gaze over Lu Ming. Buzz. Buzz. It flapped its wings a few times and flew towards Lu Ming at top speed. Its sharp claws grabbed at Lu Ming in the air. The force whistled and its sharpness was terrifying. Lu Ming's eyes turned cold. He grabbed the rock with one hand and held the meteor spear in the other. He thrust the spear forward. Clang! The meteor spear struck the sharp claws of his opponent, and the sound of metal clashing rang out. The lion-headed eagle beast was sent flying, but Lu Ming's long spear also trembled violently, causing Lu Ming's arm to go numb. What a terrifying power! Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. He did not dare to be careless. Roar! The lion-headed eagle beast retreated and spread its wings to stabilize its body. Its eyes were even colder. With a flap of its wings, its body was like a gust of wind as it charged at Lu Ming. Its wings were like blades, slashing at Lu Ming. Whoosh! 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 Lu Ming held the spear in one hand and shot out rays of spear radiance as he fought the lion-headed eagle beast. In the blink of an eye, the two sides had exchanged dozens of blows. In the end, Lu Ming thrust his spear at the lion-headed eagle beast's lower abdomen. The lion-headed eagle beast roared in anger and retreated frantically. Feathers fell all over the sky, and it was swept away by the hurricane, disappearing at the end of the Pa's sage. Roar! Roar! The lion-headed eagle-bodied beast was incomparably enraged. It roared continuously, and its wings flapped rapidly. Buzz! And NBSP whoosh! Wind blades, sharper than ordinary divine artifacts, were formed and shot toward Lu Ming. Not good. Without hesitation, Lu Ming activated the double combat strength of the battle formula. Now, Lu Ming could trigger the double combat strength of the battle formula almost twice. After activating the double combat power, his strength increased greatly. With a shake of his long spear, he shot out over 100 spear lights, destroying the wind blades one by one. At the same time, the long spear swept out with the wind, sweeping towards the lion-headed eagle beast. Lu Ming's attack was already astonishingly fast to begin with. Now that he was moving along with the wind, his speed became even faster. The lion-headed eagle beast wanted to dodge, but it was already too late. It was struck by the long spear. Bang! The lion-headed eagle beast exploded. To Lu Ming's surprise, after the lion-headed eagle beast exploded, there was not a single drop of blood. It turned into energy and disappeared. It's fake and not a real living being? Lu Ming was also stunned. Could it be that this was condensed by the big array? However, the lion-headed eagle beast was too real. It was no different from the real thing. Lu Ming could not tell just now. After killing the lion-headed eagle-bodied beast, Lu Ming continued to move forward from the side. However, they didn't go far before they heard a few more roars. Then, Lu Ming saw the lion-headed eagle beast. Moreover, it wasn't just one this time, but three. The three lion-headed eagle-bodied beasts pounced at Lu Ming the moment they saw him. Then let's fight. Lu Ming's eyes turned cold. He brandished his long spear and engaged the three-headed lion-headed eagle beast in close combat. This time, they exchanged more than 100 moves. In the hurricane tunnel, Lu Ming had to resist the strong wind and it was difficult for him to exert his full strength. On the other hand, the lion-headed eagle beast was like a fish in water, able to exert its full strength. Therefore, even though the lion-headed eagle beast's level was not high, Lu Ming still spent a lot of effort to kill it. It's not bad to use this environment to train myself. Lu Ming smiled faintly. In such an adverse situation, Lu Ming had to go all out to fight the lion-headed eagle beast. He had to exert his dominant power and the battle character formula to the extreme. After the previous exchange of blows, Lu Ming felt that he had gained some understanding of the ruler and the battle character formula. Although it wasn't much, it was still much faster than dry and bitter cultivation. After that, Lu Ming found a larger protruding rock and used it to stabilize his body. He then circulated his cultivation technique to recover. Every time he used the double combat power of the battle formula, he had to rest and recover. It was impossible to use it continuously. A few hours later, Lu Ming had fully recovered. He then continued to head deeper into the Pa's sage. However, he had not gone far when a few more lion-headed eagle-bodied beasts appeared and fought with Lu Ming. After another 100 moves, the lion-headed eagle beast was finally killed. Lu Ming had gained more understanding of the Tao of domination and the battle formula. Chapter 2612 Tempering through killing. Just like that, Lu Ming advanced and killed along the way. In the blink of an eye, 3 months had passed, said. After 3 months, they still had not reached the end of the Pa's sage. There were 2 main reasons for this. First, the Pa's sage was too long. The second reason was that Lu Ming's progress was very slow. Every time he advanced a certain distance, he would encounter the lion-headed eagle-bodied beast. Naturally, his progress would be slower. There was even one time when Lu Ming encountered more than 10 lion-headed eagle-bodied beasts appearing at the same time. Lu Ming was no match for them and could only retreat against the wind. Fortunately, the lion-headed eagle beast seemed to have its own territory. When Lu Ming retreated to a certain area, the other party did not pursue him. Lu Ming continued to fight the lion-headed eagle beast. After 3 months, the palace master and the experts of the Yuanluo Palace finally broke the formation of the outermost gate. Kacha! The door opened, and the palace master and the others rushed in excitedly. They fantasized that there would be a large number of treasures waiting for them. However, it was as if a basin of cold water had been poured on them. Nothing, there was nothing. They searched every corner, but it was empty. There was nothing. The palace master's face darkened. Naturally, they had also searched for the passageway that Lu Ming had entered previously. However, the gap had been blocked by Qiu. They had only scanned the area casually and naturally did not discover it. Soon, they came to the depths and were blocked by the second door. Palace master, there's another door here. Perhaps, the area we're in now is only the periphery of the cave abode, so there's no treasure here. We might be able to obtain an opportunity through this door. The Grand Elder of the Yuanluo Palace, Missouri Kan, said. That's right, the treasure must be hidden inside. As long as we break through this door, we'll definitely be able to obtain the treasure. The others from the Yuanluo Palace also chimed in. The palace master's expression eased a little. Alright, then let's join forces and break this door. When we get the treasures, I will definitely not mistreat you. Many thanks, Hall Master. The others expressed their gratitude and joined forces to attack the door. However, the moment they made their move, their expressions turned ugly. This was because the strength of this gate's array was much stronger than the first gate. The first door had taken them several months to break open. This door would probably take even longer. But now, they were helpless and could only grit their teeth and attack. In the sky above the righteous army, the ancestor of technique and Fu Heng were still playing chess. What they were playing wasn't a real game of chess. It contained cultivation and wisdom. Every move was a contest between the two of them, and it would take a long time. They were still playing chess with all their might. In the hurricane tunnel, Lu Ming was still moving forward slowly, fighting with the lion-headed eagle beast. Just like that, Lu Ming entered the hurricane passageway. 8 months had passed. After 8 months of continuous killing, Lu Ming had made great progress in all aspects. Lu Ming felt that his cultivation level had reached the limit of a 5-star heavenly emperor and he could break through. I've been fighting and tempering myself here. My cultivation has indeed improved very quickly. Lu Ming sighed. If he were to cultivate step by step outside, even in such a good environment like the desolate universe, Lu Ming would need at least 5 years before he could break through. And this was under the premise that he had Jing Ye's portrait to study. However, in less than a year, Lu Ming felt that he could break through. I have to find a better place to break through. Along the way, I saw some pits, but I have to break through in those pits. Lu Ming pondered. The walls here were uneven, and there were often some potholes, like shallow caves. It was a very good hiding place. Lu Ming continued to move forward. After a few more rounds of fighting, Lu Ming finally found a pit. After entering the pit, Lu Ming sat cross-legged and began to regulate his breathing. A few hours later, Lu Ming had recovered to his peak state. He took out a pile of divine crystals and started to break through. The breakthrough this time was smooth without any difficulty. A few days later, Lu Ming successfully became a 6-star heavenly emperor. The price he paid was that he had to consume over 10,000 divine crystals. After becoming a 6-star heavenly emperor, Lu Ming's abilities had become stronger. However, the further one advanced in the virtual god realm, the greater the gap between each level. It was getting harder and harder for him to break through in the Heavenly Emperor realm and fight across levels. If he did not use the battle character formula, Lu Ming could only fight against a 4th-level void god-level powerhouse at most with the path of domination. After successfully breaking through, Lu Ming continued to advance and fought the lion-headed eagle-bodied beast to temper himself. In the blink of an eye, Lu Ming had been in the Hurricane Pa's Sageway for 1 year and 3 months. At this moment, the Yuan Luo Hall Master and the others were still blocked by the second door and could not break the formation. Hall Master, bad news. At this moment, an expert from the Yuan Luo Palace came in and reported. What is it? The Hall Master of the Yuan Luo Hall asked with a dark expression. He was in a bad mood. He had been here for more than a year, but he had not gained anything. If this went on, when Fu Heng couldn't hold the ancestor of technique back anymore, it would be troublesome. Palace Master, the free and unfettered sect master is here with his men. An expert from the Yuan Luo Palace reported. That old fellow Situ, the Yuan Luo Palace Master gritted his teeth. Brother Kong, you're too unkind. There's an expert's cave here, and you want to take it for yourself without even informing me. At this time, a cold and faint voice rang out, and a group of people rushed in. The one in the lead was a skinny middle-aged man. This man was the leader of the Footloose sect, Situ Haonan. Brother Situ, you've misunderstood me. There's a formation blocking this place. I was going to break the formation and inform you. The palace master of the Yuan Luo Palace said with a fake smile. Notify me when the formation is broken? Situ Haonan laughed coldly and said, Brother Kong, no matter what, we're in an alliance. We've worked together to deal with the righteous army. My carefree sect has helped you hold back many of the righteous army's experts, which is why you have the opportunity to occupy this cave dwelling. So, my carefree sect will also have a share of this cave dwelling. Brother Kong, do you have any objections? How many do you want? The Yuan Luo Palace Master said. Half. Well, split the treasures inside. Situ Haonan said. Half. The palace master's face darkened. Brother Situ, your appet. Te is too big. Too big? He. Humph. Situ Haonan sneered. If I turn around and leave now and lure Fa Ming here, I'm afraid you won't even get half of it. The palace master's expression turned ugly. Everything was about benefits. The Yuan Luo Palace and the Walkabout sect had only joined forces for the sake of profit. Now that an expert's cave abode was in front of them, their relationship was not as friendly. He had no doubt that if he refused, Situ Haonan would do anything. Chapter 26 13 7-star Heavenly Emperor. The palace master of the Yuan Luo Palace forced out a smile and said, Brother Situ must be joking. Fine, half it is, but the formation here is very strong and difficult to break. Next, we'll need all of free and unfettered sex experts to attack together. This is only natural. Situ Haonan revealed a smile. Immediately, the experts from the Yuan Luo Palace and the Walkabout sect joined forces to attack the formation. With the two of them working together, their speed increased greatly. It only took them a month to break through the formation and open the door. Let's go. The experts from both sides rushed into the gate, ready to plunder the treasures. But after entering, he was dumbfounded. It was clean and there was nothing inside. They came to the place where Lu Ming had taken the pills. There were a few shelves, but there was nothing on the shelves. Empty. The palace master's face was extremely gloomy. His chest heaved up and down, and he almost vomited blood. Could it be that this cave abode was empty, and the owner of the cave abode did not leave anything behind? It shouldn't be. This was a deity's cave abode. According to common sense, even if such a person left, he would take some valuable treasures with him, but he would always leave behind some unimportant items. They might not be important to heavenly deities, but to them, they might all be priceless treasures. But how could there be nothing? Search carefully. The hall master of the Yuan Luo Hall roared. They searched inside and out, but they couldn't find a single hair. In the end, they came to the depths of this area. There was a Pa-est sage here that was blocked by an extremely powerful formation. There's more inside. Perhaps, the deeper part of the cave is inside? Perhaps the treasures are all inside? The hall master of the Yuanluo Hall and the others consoled themselves with this thought. Then, he had no choice but to continue working hard and bombarding the formation. However, the formation here was even more powerful than the previous one. Even an expert from the Walkabout sect would need a long time to break through it. Time Pa-est said quickly. It had been 2 years since Lu Ming entered the Hurricane Pa-est Sageway. Lu Ming made rapid progress in the continuous fighting. His cultivation level had unknowingly reached the peak of 6-star Heavenly Emperor. Lu Ming found another pit and started to break through to the next realm. In the end, he successfully broke through the realm and became a 7-star Heavenly Emperor. Lu Ming had finally reached the peak of 7-star Heavenly Emperor. The next step was to combine all 10,000 elements into one and form the Divine Fire. After condensing the Divine Fire, he would be able to break through to the Martial God realm and enter the second step of cultivation. To the current Lu Ming, it was not particularly difficult for him to gather 10,000 elements into one and condense the Divine Fire. This was because when Lu Ming came to the primeval universe, his small world had already merged with the primeval universe and transformed into pure world energy and dominator energy. Moreover, as Lu Ming's cultivation level increased, the proportion of the ruler's power in his body increased. Now, the proportion of the dominator's power in Lu Ming's body had reached 99%. Only 1% of the world's power was left. As long as he could convert all the energy in his body into the dominator's power, Lu Ming could begin to attempt the 10,000 elements return to one and condense the Divine Fire. This trip to the cave abode had helped Lu Ming save a lot of time. Continue. After the breakthrough, Lu Ming continued to move forward along the Pa-est Sageway. Hu, and NBSP Hong Long Long. This time, after Lu Ming had walked for a while, he not only heard the terrifying whistling of the strong wind, but also deafening collision sounds. Lu Ming continued to move forward for a while and realized that he had finally reached the end of the Pa-est Sage. At the end of the Pa-est Sage, there were several other Pa-est sages that intersected and converged. Each Pa-est sage was filled with strong wind. The wind from several Pa-est sages collided with each other, creating a shocking explosion. Furthermore, the wind from the few tunnels converged into an even larger tunnel, making the wind in that tunnel even stronger. Lu Ming felt that if he were to enter, he would not be able to resist for long before his body was torn apart by the strong wind. It seems that I can only stop here. I'm afraid I can't enter the depths of the cave abode. Lu Ming pondered. There's a cave here. Suddenly, Lu Ming noticed a dark cave beside the wall. He climbed along the wall and looked into the cave. It was dark and bottomless. Along the way, Lu Ming had not found any similar caves. Where did this cave lead to? Lu Ming was extremely curious. He pondered for a moment and decided to take a look. Lu Ming activated the power of domination. His eyes glowed. He could see everything in the dark cave. Lu Ming entered the cave. There was no wind in the cave. Lu Ming walked carefully along the cave. He reached the end of the cave after walking for a few thousand meters. Then, Lu Ming realized that he had come to a huge platform. The platform was very wide, and on one side of the platform, the sound of the wind could be heard. Lu Ming walked over to take a look and realized that in the direction of the platform, there was a Hurricane Pa-est sage. The strong wind there was extremely terrifying. It was many times stronger than the ones that Lu Ming had encountered before. Lu Ming's expression was a little grave. He did not dare to approach and stayed away from the Hurricane Pa-est sage. He sized up the other places on the platform. On the other side of the platform, there was a stone door. Lu Ming pushed the door open and entered, only to discover a Pa-est sageway. There were some rooms on both sides of the Pa-est sage. Could these be the bedroom? Lu Ming discovered that there were stone tables and stone beds in these rooms. However, they were all very ordinary and did not contain any treasures. The next few rooms were all ordinary stone tables and beds. They were of no value. Lu Ming's eyes lit up when he came to the last room. There were some shelves in the room, and on them were weapons. Lu Ming's heart began to beat rapidly. He picked up a combat sword nearby and infused his ruler's power into it. Buzz! The combat sword began to glow, and a powerful aura filled the air. This is a level 9 low-grade god equipment. Lu Ming's breathing quickened and his eyes were burning. This was definitely a level 9 low-grade god equipment. The meteor spear that Lu Ming had bought was only a level 6 low-grade divine artifact, but it was worth 7,000 divine crystals. A level 9 low-grade divine artifact's price was at least several times higher. It could be sold for 70 to 80,000 divine crystals, or even 100,000 divine crystals. There are words below. Lu Ming discovered that there was a small sign hanging on the hilt of the sword. There were words written on it. Guyu Sword, a level 9 low-quality god artifact. On the sign, there was a line of words. It really is a level 9 low-grade god artifact. Lu Ming laughed and kept it quickly. He then looked at the other weapons. Breeze Hook, a level 9 low-grade god equipment. Separation and Reunion Saber, level 8 low-grade god artifact. Lu Ming looked at 6 to 7 weapons in a row. All of them were level 7 low-grade divine artifacts or above. Rich. Rich, Lu Ming muttered to himself. This time, he was really rich. Lu Ming never expected that he would have such a great harvest after passing through the hurricane tunnel. 6 Battle Rod, a middle-grade level 1 divine artifact. When Lu Ming picked up a long rod and took a look, his eyes immediately lit up. Chapter 2614 Ambushing the Ancestor of Technique. There was actually a middle-grade divine artifact here. A middle-grade divine weapon was equivalent to an expert at the True God Realm. Only an expert at the True God Realm could unleash the full power of a middle-grade divine weapon. Lu Ming's eyes burned even more fervently. He kept the long staff and sped up to read it. Level 3 middle-grade god equipment, level 2 middle-grade god equipment. A moment later, Lu Ming put away all the weapons. There were a total of 33 divine artifacts. All of them were level 7 low-grade god equipment and above. Any one of them was better than the meteor spear that he was using now. And NBSP among them, there were 20 low-quality divine artifacts. There were a total of 13 middle-grade divine artifacts. There were even 2 god tools in there. The highest level was a level 7 middle-grade god tool. One was a battle sword, and the other was a battle saber. How many god crystals could a middle-grade level 7 god equipment be sold for? Lu Ming could not estimate the value of a divine weapon of this level. Even forces like the Righteous Army, the Origin Hall, and the Walkabout sect could not produce one. It was too precious. Lu Ming had no idea how many divine crystals the 33 divine artifacts were worth. In short, he knew that he had struck it rich. From now on, he wouldn't have to worry about resources. His disciples, family, friends, and the people of the Dragon Alliance wouldn't have to worry about resources either. Meteor Spear, you can change it. Lu Ming was all smiles. Among the 33 divine artifacts, there were a few spears. The highest grade one was a middle grade rank for god artifact. And NBSP in addition, he had a level 8 low-quality god artifact and a level 9 low-quality god artifact. Lu Ming picked up a level 9 low-grade divine artifact and waved it a few times. It felt pretty good. After looting all the divine artifacts, Lu Ming wandered around for a while. He left only after he was sure that there were no more treasures. I can't go in with my cultivation. I can go back. Lu Ming was satisfied. After that, he would go through the cave and return to the hurricane tunnel. Then, He followed the original path and climbed the rock back. Going back was going against the wind, and it was very difficult. However, Lu Ming had already killed all the lion-headed eagle beasts in the Hurricane Pa's sage. There were no lion-headed eagle beasts to stop him on his way back. Moreover, Lu Ming's cultivation level had increased by a notch, so he was still very fast. Even if it was against the wind, it was still many times faster than when they came. After Lu Ming had crawled back for a while, the people from the free and unfettered sect of the Yuanluo Palace finally opened the formation of the Pa's sage. They rushed through the Pa's sage. At the end of the Pa South Sage was the place where Lu Ming had obtained a large number of divine artifacts. Then, the palace master, Situ Haonan, and the others realized that the place was still empty. Other than some stone chairs and tables, there was nothing else. What's going on? The Yuanluo Palace master bellowed. He could no longer control his temper. After all his hard work, he found that there was nothing here. If he knew that Lu Ming had already arrived here, he would probably vomit blood in anger. Everyone's face was extremely unsightly. Then, when they found the hurricane tunnel, their faces became even more unsightly. The Hurricane Pa's sage here was a combination of several Pa's sages, and its power was astonishing. Even the Yuanluo Palace master was a little afraid of it. This should be a barrier set up by the master of the cave. Could it be that the real inner cave is in the depths of these Hurricane Pa's sages? They guessed. However, they were hesitant. Usually, such a place would definitely be accompanied by danger. Let's observe for a few days before making a decision, the Yuanluo Palace master said. In the sky above the Jingtian army headquarters on Jingtian planet, the ancestor of technique and Fu Heng had been playing this game of chess for more than 2 years. And now, it was already the final moment. Break. The ancestor of technique waved his hand and a huge chess piece was formed. He then placed it on the chessboard. Fu Heng's expression changed. He waved his hand, and a powerful force rushed toward the ancestor of technique, preventing him from placing the chess piece. Boom! Boom! The two of them continued to attack each other. In the past 2 years, the two of them had already gone through this kind of confrontation countless times. After a dozen moves. Boom! In the end, the ancestor of technique's chess piece still landed on the chessboard. You've lost. The ancestor of technique looked at Fu Heng. Brother Fa is indeed talented. I am impressed. The game is over, and I have fulfilled my promise. Brother Fa, please don't blame me. I'm leaving. With a wave of his sleeve, Fu Heng soared into the sky. Then, an interplanetary warship appeared. He boarded the warship and left the true sky star. Northern Shang planet. The moment Fu Heng left, the ancestor of technique immediately went to the teleportation formation and headed to the Northern Shang planet. After arriving at 7-Star Island, he immediately rushed to the ancient gold mine and met up with the righteous army 100,000 miles away from the ancient gold island. The general is here. General. The people of the righteous army immediately saluted the ancestor of technique. What's the situation at the Yuanluo Palace in the past 2 years? The ancestor of technique asked. General, for the past 2 years, the palace master of the Yuanluo Palace, the sect master of the Shaoyao sect, and the others have all been in the cave abodes of the experts. They have never come out. Someone reported. That old fox Situ Haonan is here too. The ancestor of technique's eyes flashed with a sharp glint as he ordered, you guys wait for me here, I'll go check it out myself. With that, the ancestor of technique turned into a beam of light and rushed toward the old gold mine. It's the righteous heaven army's General Fa Ming. Quickly informed the hall master and the others. The moment the ancestor of technique arrived, the people from the Yuanluo Palace and the carefree sect immediately noticed him. Under the leadership of a few true God stage experts, they were on high alert and sent the news to the Yuanluo Palace master and the others. Both Yuanluo Palace master and Situ Haonan received the news at the same time. Fa Ming actually dared to come alone. Fine, I'll make him stay today. Yuan Luo Palace Master's eyes glinted with a cold light. After spending a few years without getting anything in return, he was filled with anger. That's good. Well, get rid of Fa Ming and split the righteous army's territory equally. Situ Haonan also said coldly. Elder Amo, you should hide in the dark first. Fa Ming might think that you're still guarding the headquarters. Later on, when Brother Situ and I fight with Fa Ming, you'll secretly attack and ambush him. The hall master of the Yuan Luo Hall ordered. The Yuan Luo Palace Master was rather wary of the ancestor of technique. He and Imo Ken were both at the 4th stage of True God Realm, while the ancestor of technique was only at the 3rd stage of True God Realm. However, the ancestor of technique's combat power was extremely strong. With his power alone, he could fight with the two of them. Even with the help of Situ Haonan, they were not confident that they could stop the ancestor of technique if they were to fight him head-on. They could not stop him if he wanted to leave. Only a sneak attack could possibly stop the ancestor of technique. Don't worry. The Grand Elder of the Walkabout sect is also hiding near the Qinjin mine. He can also launch a sneak attack when the time comes. Well, definitely make Fa Ming stay here today. Situ Haonan said coldly. The Yuan Luo Palace Master's heart trembled as he thought, old fox, this Situ Haonan must have asked a Grand Elder of the Walkabout sect to hide in the dark to guard against the Yuan Luo Palace. Alright, then today, I'll make sure that Fa Ming won't be able to return. The Yuan Luo Palace Master said coldly as they headed out. Chapter 2615 True God Battle Outside the cave. The ancestor of technique stood in the void, exuding a vast divine might. Set up the formation. The Yuan Luo and free and unfettered sect experts who were guarding outside the cave had extremely grave expressions on their faces. One by one, they retreated and set up a great formation, waiting for the attack. The ancestor of technique's name was Too Great. A person who came out of a small kiliacosm under the jurisdiction of the Yuan Luo Palace broke free from the restraints of the Yuan Luo Palace and rose against the heavens. He created the righteous army to fight against the Yuan Luo Palace. More importantly, the ancestor of technique's combat strength was extremely powerful. He had fought against 2 experts from the Yuan Luo Palace alone and established a great reputation. Even though there was a 3rd stage true god from the Yuan Luo Palace who had the same cultivation as the ancestor of technique, his face was pale and his heart was filled with fear. He had once seen the ancestor of technique kill a stage 3 true god expert with a single move. He didn't have the slightest bit of courage to face the ancestor of technique. Kang Ji, get out here. The ancestor of technique shouted coldly. His voice was so loud that many people with weak cultivation had to step back. Fa Ming, do you only know how to act so arrogantly in front of my subordinates? The voice of the palace master of the Yuan Luo Palace, Kang Ji, could be heard from within the cave. Then, with a flash, more than 10 figures rushed out of the cave abode. It was Kang Ji, Situ Haonan, and the others. Of course, the Grand Elder of the Yuan Luo Palace, Missouri Kan, did not appear. Kang Ji's eyes swept around and found that only Fa Ming was there. The cold light in his eyes became even thicker. Kang Ji, Chen Jindao, originally belonged to my righteous army. Now, you can get lost. The ancestor of technique said. Ha ha ha, laughable, truly laughable. Kang Ji laughed and looked at the ancestor of technique with a mocking expression. Fa Ming, you're really naive. You've been in the chaotic astral river for so many years, yet you still don't understand one thing. In the chaotic astral river, whoever is stronger will be able to occupy more and more territory. From now on, this island, no, the entire northern Shang planet will belong to my Yuan Luo Palace and the free and unfettered sect. Do you understand? Since that's the case, let's use our strength to speak. The ancestor of technique was very direct. He stepped out, and his vast divine power burst out like a tide. Boom! The ancestor of technique's palm pressed down. His divine power boiled and a huge palm print smashed down towards Kang Ji. Kang Ji didn't dare to be careless. His fourth-level true God realm divine power completely erupted. In his hand, a battle blade appeared. A blade light soared into the sky and slashed towards the technique ancestor's palm print. Boom! And NBSP energy shot into the sky as divine power clashed, creating shockwaves that scattered in all directions. Not good, block it. The true God realm experts from the Yuanluo Palace and the Walkabout sect all laid down layers of defense in front of them to block the shockwaves, but they were still pushed back by the shockwaves. Some of the weaker ones spat out blood and their faces turned pale. If there were true God experts to defend, those with weaker cultivation would have been killed by the shockwaves. There was a huge difference between the Void God realm and the True God realm. At the same time, the blade light and the palm print dissipated. A figure continuously retreated, and the person who retreated was Kang Ji. His cultivation was clearly at the fourth stage of True God realm, one stage higher than the ancestor of technique. However, in a head-on battle, he was at a disadvantage. Kang Ji, your battle strength is not good enough. The ancestor of technique said coldly. He activated his divine power and struck out with his palm again. Sun Blade Technique. And NBSP, kill. Kang Ji shouted, and his middle grade level 4 God artifact battle saber emitted a dazzling saber light that was as dazzling as the sun. Then, he struck out with his saber. The scorching saber light slashed at the ancestor of technique's palm print. Kang Ji displayed his godly skill. Fa Ming, take this. The leader of the free and unfettered sect, Situ Haonan, also made his move. His body moved like a flickering light and a passing shadow. He was extremely fast as he rushed towards the ancestor of technique. At the same time, a soft sword appeared in his hand. The sword light was like a poisonous snake as it stabbed towards the vital parts of the ancestor of technique. This was also a terrifying divine skill. Kang Ji and Situ Haonan both used their godly skills. The ancestor of technique's face finally revealed a trace of seriousness. In his hand, a combat sword also appeared. The blade of the sword was a full 2 meters long. Buzz! The ancestor of technique slashed out with his sword, and the sword light broke through the air and flashed. Boom! Boom! With 2 violent explosions, the ancestor of technique blocked Kang Ji and Situ Haonan's attacks. Fa Ming, since you dared to come here alone today, you can stay here forever. Kang Ji continuously used his Shin power and used his Shin technique to the extreme. The power was extremely terrifying as he attacked. At the same time, Situ Haonan's body flickered and moved around at an extremely fast speed, taking the opportunity to attack the ancestor of technique's weakness. With the 2 of them working together, their power increased sharply. The ancestor of technique focused his attention and fought 1 against 2, and it was difficult to tell who was winning. The 3 of them fought on the sea, creating huge waves, and then fought in the sky. In the blink of an eye, the 3 of them had exchanged hundreds of moves, and it was difficult to determine the winner. At this time, the 3 of them were fighting on the sea again. Whoosh! Suddenly, the surface of the sea churned, and a terrifying destructive light burst out from the sea and attacked the ancestor of technique. Mo can. The ancestor of technique shouted angrily. Ha, Fa Ming, die. Kang Ji laughed and launched a violent attack. Situ Haonan also burst out with full power attacks, coordinating with Mo Can's sneak attack. Just as the ancestor of technique was about to be hit, suddenly, the sword light on his body expanded and shot out in all directions. Boom! 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 Kang Ji, Situ Haonan, and Mo Can's attacks were all blocked by the sword light that filled the sky. Buzz! Woo woo woo! Kang Ji, Situ Haonan and Mo Can retreated quickly. They stood in the air and looked at the ancestor of technique in shock. Fa Ming, You've reached the 3rd level of your divine skill? Kang Ji roared in shock. A divine skill was naturally an attack of the martial god realm. It could exert the power of divine power to the extreme and burst out with terrifying power. It had the same meaning as martial skills. According to the different power and the different degree of profoundness, divine skills were also divided into different levels. However, the division of Shin skills was completely related to the level of mystery. For example, a divine skill only had one level. Even if it was cultivated to the peak, there would only be one level, and that would be a divine skill of the first level. Some divine skills, when cultivated to the peak, had two levels, and that would be two divine skills. Two divine skills were naturally more powerful and terrifying than one. Some divine skills, when cultivated to the peak, would have three levels, and would become three levels of divine skills. The more levels a divine skill had, the greater its potential and the higher its value. Of course, the cultivation of a Shin technique is very profound and complicated. Even if you have it, you might not be able to cultivate it to the highest level. For example, if a person's talent was limited and he had a triple-layer divine skill, but could only cultivate it to the first layer, then the power would be no different from that of a first-layer divine skill. The more profound it was, the more levels it would have. There were 4th, 5th, 6th, and even 9th and 10th levels. The minimum requirement to cultivate a divine skill was to be at peak void god level, because it consumed a lot of divine power to use divine level. Without great divine power, it could not be sustained at all. Kangji and Situ Haonan both have a triple-stage spirit technique, but they've only cultivated it to the second stage. The ancestor of technique also had a triple divine skill, but he had already cultivated it to the third level. Chapter 2616 Unexpected Calamity. One had to know that the ancestor of technique was only at stage 3 true god realm, but he had already cultivated a divine technique to stage 3. This kind of comprehension ability was simply terrifying. He must be eliminated. Kangji roared in his heart. The ancestor of technique was so terrifying. If he were to break through to the 4th level of the true god stage, how terrible would that be? So what if you've cultivated your divine skill to the 3rd level? You'll still die today. Kangji roared and charged towards the ancestor of technique. At the same time, Situ Haonan and Mo can also charged towards the ancestor of technique. Each of them unleashed their divine skills to their maximum potential. Sword-breaking art. The ancestor of technique's sword stabbed out continuously. There were more than 10 sword lights that stabbed towards Kangji, Situ Haonan, and Mo Kan. This was the technique ancestor's divine technique. It had already been cultivated to the 3rd level, and its power was extremely strong. It continuously collided with the attacks of Kangji and the others. In the air, the ancestor of technique was forced to retreat. However, he still managed to block the attacks from Kangji and the others. He was only at a slight disadvantage. Kill, kill. Kangji was extremely shocked. With the power of the 3 of them, they were actually unable to take down the ancestor of technique. Didn't that mean that without Situ Haonan, he and Mo Kan were not the ancestor of technique's match? He had to get rid of the ancestor of technique, or else he would not be able to eat or sleep in peace. Situ Haonan had the same thought. The carefree sex strength was similar to the Yuan Luo Palace. The 3 of them once again charged towards the ancestor of technique. The 2 sides were locked in a fierce battle. Force him to the island. During the battle, Situ Haonan transmitted a message to Kangji and Mo Kan. Kangji's eyes flashed with ferocity. He continued to attack violently, forcing the ancestor of technique towards Qinjindao. On Qinjin Island, the people from the Yuan Luo Palace and the Walkabout sect retreated far away, not daring to stay there. Slowly, their battle moved to Qinjin Island. Whoosh! All of a sudden, a sword light burst out from a hidden place on the island. The sword light was bright and sharp, and its power was extremely shocking. It was not any weaker than Situ Haonan's. You guys, the ancestor of technique revealed a shocked expression. He knew that he had been ambushed, and the other side still had experts to kill him. He didn't need to think to know that it was a grand elder of the Walkabout sect, an existence at the 4th level of the true God stage. The ancestor of technique tried his best to dodge, but Kang Ji and the other two launched a fierce attack, making it difficult for the ancestor of technique to truly dodge. Pfft. In the end, the ancestor of technique didn't completely avoid it. A sword light streaked across his chest, almost cutting him to the side. Get lost. The ancestor of technique roared. In an instant, hundreds of sword lights shot out, forcing Kang Ji and the others to retreat. With a flash, Kang Ji and the other three surrounded the ancestor of technique. Very good. I didn't expect that the strongest people of your two forces would be here. The ancestor of technique's face was pale. Although he had managed to avoid being hit in his vital parts, he had still suffered some injuries and his strength had been reduced. Fa Ming, your fate has already been decided today. A mere ant from a small kiliocosm can't defy the heavens. Kang Ji coldly said. Haha, so what if it's a small world? Do you think you're bleed just because you were born in the primeval world? How laughable, if it was a one-on-one battle, you all would be nothing more than clay chickens and pottery dogs. The ancestor of technique laughed coldly, his face filled with contempt. Kang Ji and the other three's faces were a bit gloomy. Indeed, none of the four of them were the ancestor of technique's match in a one-on-one battle. Even though their cultivation levels were higher. You only know how to use your tongue. The winner is king and the loser is a bandit. Fa Ming, I'll send you on your way. Kang Ji didn't waste any more words and his figure rushed towards the ancestor of technique. At the same time, Situ Haonan and the other two also launched their attacks. Before this, the ancestor of technique had fought 3 people alone and was not a match for them. Now that he was injured, he was even less of a match for 4 people alone. He was at a disadvantage the moment they started fighting. General Zheng Tian is finished. In the future, the territory of the righteous army will belong to our 2 families. Not far away, the people from the Yuan Luo Palace and the Walkabout sect thought excitedly. Boom! Boom! The ancestor of technique and the other 4 fought intensely. The ancestor of technique was completely at a disadvantage and could only try his best to block. He had no power to fight back. Bang! After exchanging dozens of blows, the ancestor of technique's body was sent flying and crashed heavily into Qinjin's island. Boom! Smoke and dust filled the air, and the sky was filled with ancient gold ore. A huge pit appeared on the island. At this time, Lu Ming had already said through the hurricane sage and returned to the Qingjin ore vein. He followed the tunnel of the mine Xiuqiu had dug out earlier and headed out of Qinjing Island. Boom! 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 He was only halfway there when a violent boom came from above. Then, he felt the entire island shaking. Then, a terrifying force rushed toward him along the mine vein above. Not good. Lu Ming retreated frantically. Then, the mine vein in the area exploded continuously. Lu Ming was sent flying by a force. The ancestor of technique was lying in the deep pit on the island, spitting out large mouthfuls of blood. This attack made his injuries a little worse. Buzz! The ancestor of technique barely managed to stabilize his injuries and rushed out of the deep pit. The auras of Kang Ji and the other 3 firmly locked onto the ancestor of technique, trapping him in the middle. Suddenly, Kang Ji and the others were stunned because they felt an aura of life within a pile of rocks. Bang! Then, the rocks exploded and a figure rushed out. This figure was naturally Lu Ming. Nest, what's going on? Lu Ming was speechless. He had also encountered an undeserved disaster when he said through the old gold mine. When his gaze swept across Kang Ji and the rest, his heart skipped a beat. He knew that this was bad. Kang Ji and the rest's aura was too terrifying. In Lu Ming's opinion, they were simply unfathomable. Lu Ming, why are you here? At this moment, the ancestor of technique also saw Lu Ming. He was shocked. In a flash, he appeared beside Lu Ming. Ancestor of Technique. Lu Ming was overjoyed to see the ancestor of technique. So you're an ant from the righteous army. Fa Ming, it's your fortune to have a little brat die with you. Kang Ji coldly said. The ferocity in his eyes became stronger and stronger. Kang Ji, the master of the Yuan Luo Palace, Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat and many thoughts flashed through his mind. He roughly knew what had happened. The ancestor of technique was being surrounded. Don't worry, Fa Ming. After you die, I'll send the people of the righteous army to accompany you. Situ Haonan also said coldly. The four of them gradually approached the ancestor of technique, preparing to launch a thunderous attack to kill him. Senior, this battle sword is for you. At this moment, Lu Ming took out a combat sword and handed it to the ancestor of technique. This combat sword was one of the 2 level 7 middle grade divine artifacts that Lu Ming had obtained from the cave abode. The moment he saw the sword, the ancestor of technique's eyes widened in shock. However, he did not hesitate. He took it and spat a mouthful of blood onto the sword. He didn't have time to refine it now, but by sacrificing it with blood, he could temporarily release the power of the combat sword and control it freely. Buzz! The battle sword shook, and a beam of sword chi shot up into the sky. Chapter 2617 Depressed Kang Ji, that is. A middle grade level 7 god artifact. Kang Ji, Situ Haonan, Mo Kan and the rest couldn't help but widen their eyes, revealing an extremely shocked expression. At the same time, there was also a deep sense of greed. Kill! The ancestor of technique shouted and displayed the sword-breaking art. The sword light was bright and thick like pillars as it charged towards Kang Ji and the others. Attack! Kang Ji and the others also made their moves. 4 terrifying attacks were aimed at the ancestor of technique. Boom! Boom! A violent explosion sounded. The ancestor of technique's body retreated a few steps, but the attacks of Kang Ji and the others were all blocked by the ancestor of technique. He was only at a slight disadvantage. It really is a level 7 middle grade god artifact. It. How could that brat have a level 7 middle grade divine artifact? This kid must have had some fortuitous encounter. Kang Ji, Situ Haonan and the others shouted. However, they did not suspect that Lu Ming had obtained the divine weapon from the cave abode. This was because the door to the cave abode was too difficult to break open. Even with so many people, they would need to spend a lot of time to break it. How could Lu Ming break it? Moreover, they had searched the cave and found no other entrance. They only thought that Lu Ming had a fortuitous encounter from somewhere else. Lu Ming, follow me closely. The ancestor of technique said. Lu Ming nodded and followed closely behind the ancestor of technique. Let's see which one of you can stop me. The ancestor of technique's long hair flew in the air, and his sword chi was wild as it rushed towards Kang Ji's direction. Stop him! Kang Ji roared and charged towards the ancestor of technique. Situ Haonan and the others also launched their attacks. However, the ancestor of technique was controlling a middle grade level 7 divine artifact, and his battle prowess increased by a level. He was no longer afraid of Kang Ji and the other 3 joining forces. Both sides continued to attack and exchanged dozens of moves in an instant. However, the ancestor of technique was only at a slight disadvantage. Bang! In the end, the ancestor of technique defeated Kang Ji and brought Lu Ming out of the tight encirclement. I want to accompany you today. If you want to fight, well, fight another day. The ancestor of technique carried Lu Ming and flew into the distance. His voice could be heard from afar. D-A-M-N-it, D-A-M-N-it. Kang Ji roared endlessly, his face was filled with a sinister expression. Today was such a good opportunity, but the ancestor of technique had actually escaped. Furthermore, the ancestor of technique had also obtained a middle grade level 7 divine artifact, which greatly increased his battle prowess. This was extremely disadvantageous to them. What do we do? Situ Haonan's expression turned ugly. They did not pursue. They knew that even if they caught up, they would not be able to kill the ancestor of technique. If the ancestor of technique went all out, even if they could kill him, at least 2 of them would die. None of them wanted to die. Alliance, we must form an alliance, a real alliance. Otherwise, we will be broken by the ancestor of technique one by one. Kang Ji gritted his teeth and said. All right. Situ Haonan immediately nodded. In the current situation, none of them were the ancestor of technique's match. They had to truly join forces and support each other if there was a situation. Only then could they fight against the ancestor of technique. Also, we have to break through this cave as soon as possible. As long as we get the treasures inside, we won't have to fear the ancestor of technique. Kang Ji said. That's right, attack immediately. Situ Haonan said. Then, they immediately returned to the cave dwelling, planning to take a risk and try to enter the Hurricane Pa's sage. The ancestor of technique brought Lu Ming and flew tens of thousands of miles away in the blink of an eye before he stopped. Pfft. The ancestor of technique spat out a mouthful of blood and his face became paler. Senior, are you all right? Lu Ming was a little worried. It's okay, I'll be fine after regulating my breath. Kang Ji and the others probably won't dare to chase after us. Let's rest again. After saying that, the ancestor of technique took out a healing elixir and swallowed it. Then, he started to heal himself. The ancestor of technique's injuries weren't very serious. Not long after, his complexion became much better. Lu Ming, it's all thanks to you this time. I'll return this divine weapon to you. The ancestor of technique smiled. He took out the level 7 middle grade divine artifact and handed it to Lu Ming. Senior, you can keep this divine artifact for now. Lu Ming smiled but did not take it. How can this be? A middle grade level 7 god artifact is too valuable. How can I accept it? The ancestor of technique shook his head. Even he, Kang Ji, Situ Haonan and the others didn't have a level 7 middle grade god artifact. The ones they used before were all level 4 middle grade god artifacts. Senior, just take it as I'm lending it to you first. I can't use this divine artifact even if I keep it. Only you can use it to fight against Kang Ji and the others. Lu Ming said. Right now, the Yuanluo Palace and the Walkabout sect had joined forces, and the righteous army was all alone. Without a middle grade level 7 divine artifact, the ancestor of technique might not be a match for the other party. Only with this divine artifact could he contend with the other party and make them fear him. Alright, I'll keep it for now. I'll return it to you when your cultivation improves. The ancestor of technique muttered to himself and did not decline. He also understood that Lu Ming was right. If he didn't have a level 7 middle grade god artifact, if Kang Ji, Situ Haonan and the others joined forces to deal with him, he would really be no match. Putting away the combat sword, the ancestor of technique brought Lu Ming and met up with the rest of the righteous army. Ancestor of technique, how's the situation? Should we kill our way over? We can't let the Yuanluo Palace occupy that expert's cave. The people of the righteous army said one by one. It doesn't matter. How is it possible for the Yuanluo Palace and the Walkabout sect to occupy this cave? Let's go back to the righteous army and spread the news that there's an expert's cave here. The ancestor of technique said. General is wise. Since we can't have it, they can't have it all to themselves. Ha ha ha, ha 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 ha. The righteous army laughed. Then, they returned to 7-Star Island and used the teleportation formation to return to the righteous army. Then, they started to spread the news. Very quickly, the news of a deity's cave dwelling on the northern Shang star spread like a hurricane through the chaotic astral river, reaching the ears of every single power. What? It's actually a deity's cave abode. It's extremely rare in the chaotic astral river. I can't miss it. Looks like I'll have to make a trip there myself. In the chaotic astral river, all the powers, big and small, were alarmed. One expert after another hurried to northern Shang. In the chaotic astral river, divine realm experts are supreme existences. Their divine might can shake the endless starry sky. Currently, in the chaotic astral river, only the Yunfeng Pavilion has a single heavenly deity. The deity's cave dwelling was too attractive to the true god realm experts of the big and small forces. Not long after, experts arrived at the Chen-Jin mine on planet Northern Shang. All of them were true god stage existences. Moreover, the majority of them were powerhouses above the fourth stage true god realm. D.A.M.N.It, D.A.M.N.F.A. Ming, D.A.M.N. Righteous Army. Kang Ji roared again and again. He was so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. With so many experts here, how could they have a share? They could only follow the crowd. Even if there were treasures inside, they might not even get a share. Any force here would not be weaker than the Yuan Luo Palace. Kang Ji really wanted to vomit blood. After he discovered this deity's cave dwelling, he didn't even get a single hair. Chapter 26:18 Qin Tian 13 clans one by one, the experts began to enter the cave. However, the Hurricane Pa-S sage behind was incomparably dangerous. Some people found that the deeper they went, the more tunnels there were, crisscrossing each other. The further they went, the stronger the wind Pa-S sages would become. Even a true god expert wouldn't be able to get in. Later on, the pavilion master of the Yunfeng Pavilion, who was a heavenly god expert, took action personally. He broke into the depths of the cave and was said to have obtained some treasures. As for what he had obtained, no one knew. This matter finally came to an end after the pavilion master barged into the cave abode and took the treasures. In the end, the Yuan Luo Palace and the Walkabout sect didn't get anything. Kang Ji and Situ Haonan were extremely furious. They wanted to kill the ancestor of technique and destroy the righteous army. But in the end, they didn't dare to act rashly. They were actively looking for allies, hoping to find more to destroy the righteous army. Of course, the ancestor of technique wasn't idle either. He was also looking for allies to fight against the Yuan Luo Palace and the Walkabout sect. Lu Ming could not help much in this regard. He could only focus on cultivation. In the Hurricane Pa-S Sage of the Gods cave abode, Lu Ming's cultivation level rose by 2 levels, and he reached the 7-star Heavenly Emperor level. Next, he only needed to consolidate his foundation and advance towards the realm of 10,000 elements returned to 1. At the same time, Lu Ming's comprehension of the battle character had also reached a peak after 2 years of intense battle with the lion-headed eagle beast in the Hurricane Pa-S Sage. Now, he could trigger the double combat power at any time. 100% success rate. However, the word of battle in his sea of consciousness was unfathomable and mysterious. Lu Ming understood that he was still far from comprehending it. Right now, he had only comprehended a tiny bit. If he continued to study, Lu Ming felt that he could trigger the tripled combat strength. However, it was not that easy to trigger the tripled combat strength. Lu Ming had reached a bottleneck and needed time to understand. In the blink of an eye, 3 years had passed, said. After 3 years of cultivation, although Lu Ming had yet to attain demigod level, he could feel that he was getting closer and closer to it. On this day, a piece of news was spread throughout the chaotic astral river, causing a violent shock. All the forces, big and small, went crazy and exploded. On this day, Lu Ming was cultivating when he received a message from the ancestor of techniques. The ancestor of techniques had something important and wanted to see him. Is there something important? Lu Ming was puzzled. Then, he came to a hall in the righteous army and realized that there were already 5 to 6 people waiting there. The 5 or 6 of them were not very old. Their cultivation time should not exceed 10,000 years. They were all considered to be of the younger generation. Tong Shi-er was among them. Lu Ming. Tong Shi-er smiled and greeted Lu Ming. The others also nodded at Lu Ming. Lu Ming nodded in response. He then looked at Tong Shi-er and said, Miss Shi-er, may I ask why the general has summoned us? I don't know either. Tong Shi-er shook her head. The others were also confused. You're all here. At this moment, the ancestor of technique walked into the hall. General. Everyone bowed. No need to be so polite. The ancestor of technique waved his hand. You guys must be very curious. Why did I call you guys over in such a hurry? He asked. Lu Ming and the rest nodded. You guys should know that our chaotic astral river belongs to the Qin Heaven Star Field, right? The ancestor of technique said. Lu Ming and the rest nodded again. At the same time, he felt a little strange in his heart. Could the matter this time be related to the Qin Heaven Starfield? In the chaotic astral river, there are hundreds and thousands of forces, big and small, countless planets, and an incomparably vast territory. However, when compared to the Qin Heaven Starfield, there was no way to compare. The Qin Heaven Star region contained many galaxies, at least a few hundred of them. The chaotic astral river was only one of the many astral rivers in the Qin Heaven galaxy. Furthermore, it was the worst and most backward one. The number of experts was also the smallest. What did the ancestor of technique's gathering have to do with the Qin Heaven Starfield? The Qin Heaven Star domain is too vast. There are hundreds of galaxies, and there are many races living there. There are countless experts. However, among these countless forces, other than a few terrifying races, the most powerful forces are the 13 clans. Qin Tian Starfield's 13 clans. Tong Shi-er and the other young men exclaimed in unison. Lu Ming's eyes flashed. He had read the records in the ancient books. The Qin Heaven Star domain's 13 clans were 13 extremely powerful, extremely long established, and extremely terrifying clans. It could be said that other than a few terrifying races, the 13 clans stood at the peak of the vast Qin Heaven Star zone. These 13 sects were divided into 3 overlords and 10 top sections. Without a doubt, the 3 overlords were the strongest, followed by the top 10 sections. These 13 sects occupied half of the Qin Heaven Star region and had countless life planets. They had ruled the Qin Heaven Star region for countless years. Forces like the Righteous Heaven Army, the Origin Luo Palace, and the Walkabout sect were like ants in front of the 13 clans. Even the number 1 power in the chaotic astral river, the Yunfeng Pavilion, is no different from an ant in front of the 13 clans. They can be destroyed with a flip of their hands. To the people of the chaotic astral river, the 13 clans were merely a legend. They had only read about them in the ancient records. That's right. Every 1,000 years, the 13 clans of the Qin Heaven Star Zone will recruit a batch of disciples from the entire Qin Heaven Star Zone. Now, the 1,000-year period is about to end again. The ancestor of technique said. At this point, he paused. The Qin Heavenly 13 clans are recruiting disciples. The breathing of Tong Shi-er and the others became heavy, but they were also puzzled. General, I've read the records. Every 1,000 years, the Qin Heavenly 13 clans will recruit a new batch of disciples. However, they have never recruited any disciples from the chaotic astral river. What does this have to do with us? Tong Shi-er asked. The chaotic astral river was the most backward, remote and weakest among the many galaxies in the Qin Heaven galaxy. Those from various races and powers who can't survive or those who have committed crimes have all run to the chaotic astral river. Therefore, the chaotic astral river is a chaotic place where good and bad are mixed together. It's extremely chaotic and has always been looked down upon by the other galaxies. The Qin Heaven Star region's 13 clans have never accepted any disciples from the chaotic astral river. Therefore, Tong Shi-er and the others had some doubts. This time, it's different. The Qin Heaven 13 clans have announced to the world that they will be recruiting disciples from the entire Qin Heaven Star field soon. The chaotic astral river will be among them. The ancestor of technique said. Also for the chaotic astral river. Tong Shi, and the other young men's breathing became heavy, and their eyes burned with fire. They were all excited. This time, the Qin Heaven's 13 clans had actually opened their doors to the chaotic astral river for the first time ever. If one could join any of the Qin Heaven's 13 clans, that would be a heavenly opportunity. In the future, one's cultivation level would definitely skyrocket, and one would become a man above all. In the chaotic astral river, heavenly deities were synonymous with invincibility. However, in the Qin Heavenly 13 clans, heavenly deities were nothing. One could easily find a large handful of them. There were even many terrifying existences at the God King realm in the Qin Heavenly 13 clans. Chapter 26:19 The ancestor of techniques request such a powerful force naturally has an unimaginable amount of resources. The training conditions and environment are simply not something the chaotic astral river can compare with. Furthermore, if he were to be taken in as a disciple by a heavenly deity or even a god king, his future would truly be boundless. That's why I've summoned all of you here this time to let you partake. P8 in the Qin Heaven Star Region's disciple recruitment event. However, it's not that easy to join the Qin Heaven 13 clans. You'll have to go through layers of screening and it's extremely difficult. The ancestor of technique said. His eyes were also filled with anticipation. As long as someone in the righteous army joined the Qin Heavenly 13 clans and became a disciple of the clan, the righteous army's status in the chaotic astral river would rise. At that time, countless powers would come to curry favor with them. At that time, it would be a piece of cake for the walkabout sect to destroy the Yuan Luo Palace. We will definitely do our best to join the Qin Heavenly 13 clans. Tong Shi, and the others shouted, their eyes firm. They understood that this was a great opportunity for them and they had to grasp it. All right, go back and make your preparations. We'll meet here in 10 days. I'll bring you to Cloud Peak City first. The first batch of screening will be carried out there. By the way, Lu Ming, you stay behind. After the ancestor of technique finished speaking, he looked at Lu Ming. Tong Shi, and the rest left, leaving Lu Ming behind. Lu Ming was a little puzzled. He did not know why the ancestor of technique had asked him to stay. Lu Ming, when the Qin Tian 13 clans recruit disciples, they only look at talent and not cultivation. Therefore, with your talent, you'll definitely be chosen by the Qin Tian 13 clans. The ancestor of technique said. Lu Ming had mastered the path of domination. He would definitely be noticed with such talent. Lu Ming, which sect or force do you want to join? The ancestor of technique asked. I haven't thought about it yet. I don't know much about the Qin Heaven 13 clans. I'll see how it goes. I haven't thought about it yet. I don't know much about the Qin Heaven 13 clans. I'll see how it goes. Lu Ming said. Lu Ming, I have a request, the ancestor of technique muttered to himself for a moment before sighing. Senior, if you have something to say, please speak. Lu Ming said. I would like to invite you to join a sect. After the ancestor of technique finished speaking, he paused for a moment and continued, among the Qin Heaven 13 clans, the strongest are the three overlord forces, the Yimo Academy, the Imperishable Sword Sect, and the Boundless Holy Land. However, the sect I want you to join is not one of the three overlords, but one of the top 10 sects, the Kongxian sect. Kongxian sect? Lu Ming had some doubts. You must be wondering why I let you join the three overlord forces. Sigh, I have my own selfish motives here. Back then, I had some dealings with the Kongxian sect. At this point, the ancestor of technique told him about what had happened between him and the Kongxian sect. It turned out that after the ancestor of technique escaped from the Yuanluo Palace, he had been traveling and tempering himself in the vast universe. He had once left the chaotic astral river and headed to other vast galaxies. In the process, he met a woman and fell in love with her. However, this woman was a proud daughter of the Sky Mystic sect, and her father was an important figure in the Sky Mystic sect. Such a status was much, much higher than the ancestor of techniques. Naturally, the woman's father was strongly against their relationship and had forcefully brought the woman back to the Kongxian sect. He had once said that the ancestor of technique would not let the two meet as long as he could not break through to the heavenly god realm. Sigh, with my talent, I'm afraid it'll be difficult for me to reach the sky celestial realm in this lifetime. So, I have some selfish motives and want you to join the Kongxian sect. At this point, the ancestor of technique took out an exquisite dagger and said, if you join the Kongxian sect, return this dagger to her if you have the chance. Oh right, her name is Yuexin. Return it to her and tell her that I've let her down. However, this is my own selfish desire. If you don't want to join the Kongxian sect, I won't force you. The ancestor of technique sighed. His eyes were filled with nostalgia and helplessness. Senior, I agree. Lu Ming smiled and took the dagger from the ancestor of technique's hands. The matter with the ancestor of technique reminded him of the matter between him and Xian Yanqing. In the divine wilderness continent, he and Xian Yanqing had also gone through many trials before they got together. It was actually somewhat similar to the matter with the ancestor of technique. Moreover, Lu Ming did not really care which sect or force he joined. He had Jing Ye's legacy, but he had yet to break the seal on Jing Ye's portrait. Once the seal was broken, Lu Ming believed that he would definitely gain something. Moreover, he still had the battle character formula to comprehend. The main reason he joined the sect was to obtain resources. All sorts of resources that would be helpful to his cultivation. Moreover, there was another reason. Although the Kongxian sect was one of the top 10 sects, it was ranked first. In this aspect, he was not much worse than the three overlords. Lu Ming, thank you. The ancestor of technique cupped his fists solemnly. Senior, your words are too serious. Senior, I have some friends. Can they partake? IP8 in the Qin Heaven 13 Clan's disciple recruitment meet? Lu Ming hurriedly helped the ancestor of technique up. He thought of Xian Yanqing, Xian Yanjuan, and Dandan. Of course you can. Anyone who hasn't cultivated for 10,000 years can partake. IP8. I remember that your wife's talent is extremely shocking. I originally wanted to ask you to ask her to come along. However, you need to be at least at the first level of the Void God realm to partake. IP8 in the selection. However, your combat strength is extremely strong, so you don't need to meet this condition. The ancestor of technique said. Do I need to be at the first level of the Void God realm? Lu Ming's heart stirred. Initially, he wanted to call Bubbles, his disciples, Lu Xiangxiang, Ouyang Moli, and the others. However, it seemed like only Xian Yanqing, Xian Yanjuan, and Dandan fit the criteria. Lu Ming bade farewell to the ancestor of technique and returned to his residence. After he returned to his residence, Lu Ming looked for Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan and told them about the recruitment of disciples for the Qin Heaven 13 clans. Dandan immediately raised her hands in agreement. Xian Yanqing, she would naturally go wherever Lu Ming went. I agree. Xian Yanjuan agreed without hesitation. To Xian Yanjuan, she didn't care about heavenly gods or divine kings. She didn't care about divine skills or divine techniques. What she cared about was the cultivation resources in the powerful forces and the excellent cultivation environment. That way, her strength would skyrocket. During this period of time, all the major and minor powers in the chaotic astral river had become excited. They had gathered all the experts of the younger generation who met the requirements and were preparing to partake. IP8 in the Qin Heaven 13 clan's selection of disciples. In a large hall in the Yuanluo Palace, 8 young men stood in a row. Kong Long was there, and at the head of the table was the Yuanluo Palace master, Kong Ji. This time, all of you must do your best. At least one of you must join the Qin Heavenly 13 clans, even if it's the weakest clan among the 13 clans. That way, the Yuan Luo Palace's prestige in the chaotic astral river will increase greatly. At that time, we won't even have to fear the Yunfeng Pavilion. Do you understand? Kang Ji said loudly. Understood. We will do our best. Kang Long and the rest shouted. Chapter 2621 Tower challenged. The sect master of the Walkabout sect, Siddha Haonan, had also gathered all of the young geniuses of the Walkabout sect who had fulfilled the conditions. At least one of you must join the Qin Heavenly 13 clans. Situ Haonan said loudly. His eyes scanned the 9 young men and women and finally stopped on a young man with a cold expression. This young man was also his son, Situ Shao's elder brother, Situ Feng. Looking at Situ Feng, Situ Haonan's eyes shone with hope. Situ Feng was obsessed with cultivation and had no interest in anything else. However, he knew very well that Situ Feng's comprehension ability was extremely shocking. With his shocking comprehension ability, there was a high chance that he would be chosen by the Qin Heaven 13 clans and taken in as a disciple. This was his only hope. Once Situ Feng joined the Qin Heavenly 13 clans, he would be able to destroy the righteous heavenly army with a flip of his hand. 10 days passed in the blink of an eye. The geniuses of the various forces began to gather in Yunfeng City. Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, Xian Yanjuan, and Dandan also met up with the ancestor of technique, Tong Shi, and the others. It was worth mentioning that after Bubbles, Lu Ming's disciples, Lu Xiangxiang, and Ouyang Moli found out about this matter, they also clamored to go and take a look. They said that they wanted to see Lu Ming's elegance, so Lu Ming brought them along. After stepping into the teleportation array, they arrived at Yunfeng City a few days later. This was Lu Ming's second visit to Yunfeng City. Yunfeng City was as lively as usual. On the streets, people came and went, and the shops formed a forest. When they arrived at Yunfeng City, the Dharma ancestor brought them to the registration office of Yunfeng Pavilion and registered. It wasn't that easy to partake. IP8 in the Qin Heaven 13 clans final disciple recruitment meet. They had to first go through the selection process of Yunfeng City. Only those who were selected by Yunfeng City would be recommended to partake. IP8 in the Qin Heaven 13 clans disciple recruitment meet. Therefore, a large number of people would be filtered out from the beginning. After 7 days, those who are partake IP8ing in the selection gather at the Yun Peak Square. The person in charge of registration said, "Many thanks." The ancestor of technique cupped his fists and thanked him. After registering, they found an inn to stay in and waited. In a flash, 7 days had passed. Lu Ming and the group headed towards the Cloud Peak Square. The Cloud Peak Square was extremely vast, and it could easily accommodate 1 million people. At this moment, a dense crowd had already gathered around the Yunfeng Square. There were all kinds of races. Lu Ming scanned the area and discovered dozens of races. Of course, most of them were only here to watch and were not qualified to partake. IP8 in the screening. Those who are partake IP8ing in the selection enter the square. Those who are not qualified to partake IP8 in the selection leave the square. In the sky above the square, there was a middle-aged man in battle armor. His skin was golden, and he looked like a bronze man. This was the bronze skin race. In the Qin Heaven Starfield, they were considered a small race. However, the man's aura was so terrifying that many people couldn't breathe. He is much stronger than the Yuanluo Palace Master and the ancestor of technique. Lu Ming's heart stirred. This burly man's cultivation was definitely above stage 6 true god. It was even possible that he was a terrifying existence above stage 7 true god. Many people couldn't help but retreat out of the square. Only a few young people who were partake IP8ing in the selection walked into the square. "You guys go, just do your best," the ancestor of technique warned. Lu Ming and the rest nodded and stepped into the square. As he stepped into the square, Lu Ming immediately noticed that there were a few eyes looking at him. Kang Long, Situ Shao, Lu Ming's gaze swept across the room and he found Kang Long and Sita Xiao. At this moment, the two of them were looking at Lu Ming with sinister expressions. Lu Ming smiled faintly and ignored the two of them. As time passed, more and more people gathered in the square. In the chaotic astral river, there were close to 1,000 forces like the righteous heaven army in the Origin Luo Palace, or perhaps even stronger. The smaller ones had 5 to 6 people, 7 to 8 people partic. Aiding. Some of the bigger forces had dozens of people. For example, the Yunfeng Pavilion had sent over 200 people to partic. 8. All the forces had sent over 50,000 people. The pavilion master of the Yunfeng Pavilion has arrived. Suddenly, a voice was heard. Everyone was shocked. The master of the Yunfeng Pavilion is about to descend. He is currently the strongest person in the chaotic astral river, and also the only heavenly deity. Buzz. And NBSP whoosh. In the distance, beams of light flew over and stood in the sky above the square. There were 5 people in total, and 4 of them gave off terrifying auras. Their auras were many times stronger than the burly man from the Bronze Skin clan. However, these 4 people were all following behind a beautiful middle-aged woman. This beautiful middle-aged woman was a human. She did not seem to have any aura. This subordinate greets the pavilion master. However, the burly man from the bronze-skinned race and the other experts from the Yunfeng Pavilion all saluted the middle-aged beauty with great respect. The pavilion master of the Yunfeng Pavilion is actually a woman. At this moment, many people's hearts were moved and they looked surprised. For countless years, this is the first time the Qin Heavenly 13 clans have opened their doors to the chaotic astral river to recruit disciples. This is a supreme opportunity for all of you. Everyone, you must grasp it well. The clear voice of the Yunfeng Pavilion master resounded in everyone's ears. However, all of you have to be mentally prepared. The Qin Tian 13 clan's standards for recruiting disciples are astonishingly high. Without a certain level of talent, it's impossible to be chosen. Therefore, we're going to conduct a selection today. Those who pass the selection, I'll recommend you to partic. P8 in the subsequent tests of the Qin Tian 13 clans. At this point, the Yunfeng Pavilion master waved his hand, and a small tower flew out. The small pagoda was bronze in color. As soon as it flew out, it rapidly grew in size. In the end, it turned into a giant pagoda that floated in the air. It had a total of 81 floors. The selection process is very simple. You will have to challenge the tower. There are puppets on every level of the tower. You will pass as long as you can pass the 36th level. When you enter the tower, a token will be condensed and follow you. Once you pass through the 36th level, the token will light up. No one can cheat. 10,000 people in a group. Go in. The Cloud Peak Pavilion master announced. It's just a tower challenge. This is easy. I'll go first. A burly young man was the first to soar into the sky and fly toward the gate of the giant tower. Let's go. I'll join you too. Immediately, figures rose into the air and flew toward the giant tower. When 10,000 people entered the giant tower, the gate of the giant tower automatically closed. Everyone waited patiently. When everyone flew into the giant tower, they could see that the first floor of the giant tower was shining. However, in just a few breaths, the second floor of the giant tower also glowed. This meant that someone had already reached the second level of the tower. But very quickly, the third, fourth, and fifth levels lit up. Lu Ming and the rest did not enter. They would take a look first. Chapter 2621 Shocking Elimination Rate That's Fast. Level 20 has lit up. Level 21. At the scene, people kept exclaiming. It was obvious that there were terrifying geniuses in this group of people who were extremely fast. Half an hour later. And NBSP suddenly, the SP CE around the tower trembled, and a young serpent man appeared. There was a token floating above the young man's head, but it was dim. It was obvious that this young man had been eliminated. He had been teleported out before he could pass the 36th level. Eliminated, leave the square. The bronze-skinned man from before said. The serpent man youth's face was extremely unsightly. Sir, I was careless just now. Can you give me another chance? The serpent man youth shouted. He was truly unwilling to miss out on such an opportunity. If he could join the Qin Heaven 13 clans, he would be able to soar into the sky. Leave the square, I'll say it one last time. The bronze-skinned man said coldly, and a cold aura emanated from his body. The young serpent man shivered and didn't dare to stay any longer, quickly flying out of the square. As soon as he flew out of the square, the token above his head disappeared. Following that, people were continuously sent out from the surroundings of the giant tower. They were all eliminated. Those who had been eliminated had ugly expressions on their faces. They knew that they had lost a great opportunity. The pavilion master of Cloud Peak Pavilion and the others watched coldly. If he couldn't even pass such a selection, even if he partook aided in the Qin Heaven 13 clan's disciple recruitment test, he wouldn't have a chance of passing. He would only be a joke. As time said, more and more people were eliminated. The young men who had not entered the tower were a little nervous. However, the light on the giant tower was also getting brighter. The 36th level. Someone has said the 36th level. Someone shouted. At this moment, the 36th level was already shining. However, the person who had said the test had not come out yet, so it was obvious that he wanted to continue. There was no rule in the pavilion master's mind that one had to come out after sing the 36th level. One could still continue after that. The higher one went, the stronger they would be and the more valued they would be by the Cloud Peak Pavilion master. Sure enough, not long after, the 37th level also lit up. However, after the 36th level lit up, the speed of clearing the levels after that would be much slower. Furthermore, more and more people were being teleported out. In the end, nearly 9,000 people were teleported out, all of whom had failed the trial. However, following that, there were also those who had cleared the trial and were teleported out. The tokens on their heads glowed brightly, indicating that they had said the trial. Many people looked at these people enviously. Those who had successfully said the round also revealed looks of joy. Ha ha ha, this is a disciple of my Yellow Wind sect. He has said the selection. That's a disciple of my Luyan school. He also said the test. Outside the square, some people laughed in surprise. They were all experts from the major forces. Some people were happy, while others were sad. However, the challenge wasn't over yet. Half a day said before the last person was teleported out. This was a young man with a cold and arrogant expression. He had made it to the 46th level and was the first of this batch of people. He had a cold and arrogant look on his face as he scanned the surroundings, giving off the feeling of a princess. With such talent, there's a high chance that he'll be chosen by the Qin Heavenly 13 clans. It's very possible. The experts of the various forces around the square were envious. The people from the young man's force were all ecstatic. To be able to rank first out of 10,000 people, it was extremely possible that he would be chosen by the Qin Heaven 13 clans. That's because the total number of youths in the chaotic astral river who are going to partake in the selection process is only 50 to 60,000. Out of the first batch of 10,000, 9,000 were eliminated, and only 1,000 or so said. The elimination rate was a total of 9 levels. Those who had not participated in the challenge were extremely nervous. Some of them were already sweating. However, Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, and the rest were very relaxed. Next batch. The Cloud Peak Pavilion Master instructed. Immediately, another 10,000 people flew into the giant tower. Among them, Lu Ming saw Kong Long, Situ Shao, and the others. After the 10,000 people flew into the giant tower closed, and everyone waited patiently. The head of the Yuanluo Palace, Kong Ji, and the head of the Shaoyao sect, Situ Haonan, looked at the tower nervously. Their eyes were filled with anticipation and anxiety. This time, after only about 20 minutes, someone was eliminated and sent out. After that, more and more people were eliminated. In the end, more than 9,000 people were eliminated. And NBSP buzz. More people were teleported out. Among them were Kong Long and Situ Shao. However, the tokens above their heads were shining. It was clear that they had said. The two of them were full of smiles and excitement. When he looked at Lu Ming, his eyes were filled with provocation. Brat, wait until I join the Qin Heaven 13 clans. I'll make you die without a burial ground. Kong Long could not help but send a message to Lu Ming. The corners of Lu Ming's lips curled up and he revealed a mocking expression. He then looked in another direction and ignored Kong Long. Ha ha ha. Outside of the plaza, Kong Ji and Situ Haonan laughed loudly. They were so excited that their mouths cracked open. Especially Kong Long and Situ Haonan. They even looked at the ancestor of technique provocatively, but the ancestor of technique ignored them. The ancestor of technique was aware of the talents of Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, and Xian Yanjuan. Kong Long and the others were nothing. The challenge continued. Some people had not come out yet. As time said, some people had already said the 45th level and were heading towards the 46th level, closing in on the first place of the previous batch. Not long after, the 46th floor lit up, and they had already caught up with the best result of the first batch. However, it was clear that it had not stopped. The challenge was still going on. Then, the 47th, 48th, and 49th levels gradually lit up. Amazing. There's actually someone in this group who said the 49th level. Amazing. I wonder which faction he's from. There's a high chance that he'll be chosen by the Qin Heaven 13 clans. Look, it's the 50th floor. In the square, countless people were staring at the giant tower and discussing. Even the eyes of the Cloud Peak Pavilion Master lit up. Feng hasn't come out yet. Could it be that Feng is inside? At this moment, Situ Haonan was excited. That was because his son, Situ Feng, had not come out. The others had all come out. Could it be Situ Feng who was challenging the tower? Thinking of this, Situ Haonan was extremely excited. Look, it's level 51. Someone shouted. Everyone was shocked that he had already reached the 51st floor. They were all very curious about who could make it to the 51st floor. However, the 51st level was not the limit. 52, 53. A day later, the 55th level lit up. It was almost 10 levels higher than the first place of the previous batch. This was extremely shocking. At this moment, the void around the giant tower trembled and a young man's figure appeared. The token above the young man's head was shining like a sun. Chapter 26-21, Big Brother. It's my big brother. Seeing this young man, Situ Shao cried out in ecstasy. This young man was Situ Feng. All the people around the square looked at Situ Feng with all kinds of emotions. Not bad. The master of Yunfeng Pavilion looked at Situ Feng with satisfaction. As the most powerful force in the chaotic astral river, the Yunfeng Pavilion has the right to recommend geniuses to take part in the Qin Heaven 13 Clans disciple recruitment test. Furthermore, she would also reward anyone who was chosen by the 13 clans. Therefore, the more geniuses there are in the chaotic astral river, the happier she is. With Situ Feng's talent, there was a high chance that he would be chosen by the Qin Heaven 13 clans. He might even be chosen by the 3 overlords. Becoming a disciple of one of the 3 overlord forces was undoubtedly a difficult task. However, once one joined, their future would be boundless. The eyes of the Cloud Peak Pavilion Master were burning with Pa-S, Shaun. Ha ha ha, it's Feng, It's my son, Situ Feng. It's my son. At this moment, Situ Haonan finally reacted and laughed out loud in surprise. Brother Situ, congratulations. On Kang J's face, he managed to squeeze out a smile and congratulated Situ Haonan. In his heart, he was extremely jealous. With Situ Feng's talent, if he joined the 13 clans and even caught the eye of some important figure, then the Footloose sect status would rise like a boat with the tide. He was jealous in his heart, but on the surface, he still wanted to build a good relationship with Situ Haonan. Brother Situ, so that heaven's favorite is your son. Your son's talent is truly shocking. Not bad, not bad. Brother Situ, I'll treat you to a drink some other day. You must do me the honor. Brother Situ, immediately, the leaders of the major forces around Situ Haonan greeted him with a smile. It was obvious that he was trying to curry favor with Situ Haonan. What a joke. Situ Feng's talent was too shocking, and there was a high chance that he would be taken in as a disciple by the 13 clans. If he didn't suck up to Situ Haonan now, when else could he wait? Ha ha ha, everyone. You're too polite, too polite. Right now. Might not be chosen by the Qin Heaven 13 clans. It's not certain yet. Situ Haonan laughed out loud. Although he said that Situ Feng might not be chosen by the 13 clans, his expression was extremely excited, as if he could already see Situ Feng being chosen by the 13 clans or even taken as a disciple by some big shot. His heart was at ease. This Situ Feng actually has such amazing talent. In the crowd, the ancestor of technique was also shocked. He had heard of Situ Feng's name before. It was rumored that Situ Feng was a martial arts fanatic who was obsessed with cultivation. He didn't expect Situ Feng to be so talented. However, at the thought of Lu Ming, he was relieved. No matter how talented he was, he could not be compared to Lu Ming. Lu Ming controlled the path of domination. Once he became a god, he would turn into the divine energy of domination. That was divine-grade divine energy. Even in the vast Qin Heaven star domain, there were probably not many who could control divine-grade divine power. This batch of people, in general, was about the same as the first batch. About 90% of them were eliminated, and only about 1,000 people Pa-S, said the trial. 2 from the Yuanluo Palace and 3 from the Walkabout sect had Pa-S, said. Lu Ming's expression was calm and he was unmoved. The second batch is over. The third batch, go in. The pavilion master of the Cloud Peak Pavilion ordered again. Let's go in. Lu Ming looked at Xian Yanqing and the rest. All right. Xian Yanqing and the others nodded, then rose into the air and flew into the giant tower. As soon as Lu Ming flew into the giant tower, the surrounding environment changed immediately. He appeared in a vast secret room. There was no one else around him except him. This was within Lu Ming's expectations. This giant tower was obviously set up with a large formation. As long as one entered, they would most likely be alone and not with others. A token appeared above Lu Ming's head. And NBSP at this moment, the secret room began to light up, and several figures appeared. These figures were all puppets condensed by the formation and they charged toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming held the long spear in his hand and swept it across, shattering the puppets one by one. The first level, Pa-S said. There was a staircase in the secret room. Lu Ming climbed up the stairs and arrived at the second floor. Sure enough, another puppet was formed. It was stronger than the first level, but it was not difficult for Lu Ming. With a sweep of his spear, the puppet crumbled and Lu Ming ascended to the third level. In this way, Lu Ming advanced all the way with an irresistible force. Third level, fourth level, fifth level. Very soon, Lu Ming reached the 30th level. At this point, the puppet's strength was already quite strong. However, to Lu Ming, it was still not difficult. At most, his speed would be slightly reduced. Whoosh! 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 The long spear trembled and rays of spear radiance shot out. The puppets exploded one after another. Lu Ming stepped onto the 31st level. Then, it was the 32nd and 33rd levels. Very quickly, Lu Ming reached the 36th level. After he had defeated all the puppets on the 36th level, the token above his head began to glow. This meant that Lu Ming had said the test. Enough. Lu Ming smiled faintly and did not continue. Instead, he walked toward a door of light at the side. Lu Ming did not plan to continue. It was enough. As long as he said the test, there was no need to attract too much attention. His goal was to join the Qin Heaven 13 clans. Right now, it was just a screening. It would be fine as long as he could Lu Ming stepped into the light door and was teleported out of the light door. He was outside the giant tower. After Lu Ming came out, a few gazes immediately swept toward him. That included Kong Long, Situ Shao, Kong Ji, and the others. He was transported out so early, and the brightness of the token is not even as bright as mine. He probably just said through level 36. Kong Long sneered. That's right. I thought he had a lot of talent, but he's just a so-so. Situ Shao also sneered. Kong Ji and Situ Haonan were also discussing. I didn't expect this kid from the righteous army to succeed in clearing the trial. However, the brightness of the token is ordinary. There's almost no hope of him joining the Qin Heaven 13 clans. Kong Ji sneered and deliberately raised his voice for the ancestor of technique to hear. The corners of Lu Ming's lips curled up slightly. He could not be bothered. He was very clear about Lu Ming's talent. If he had given it his all, he would not have come out so early. It was obvious that Lu Ming did not want to be too ostentatious. It was fine as long as he could the test. Lu Ming did not attract any attention. Not long after Lu Ming came out, Xian Yanxing, Xian Yanjuan, and Dandan came out one after another. Naturally, they had successfully cleared the level. However, the brightness of the token was similar to Lu Ming's. Obviously, their thoughts were similar to Lu Ming's. It was enough to just the test. After some time, Tong Shi also appeared. Tong Shi had also said. The brightness of her token was much brighter than Lu Ming and the rest. She had said more than 40 levels. Chapter 2622 Envoy. After a period of time, Lu Ming's group of people had also finished challenging the levels. However, there was no one as amazing as Situ Feng in this group. The highest level they had said was the 45th floor, which was the same as the highest level of the first group. Then, it was the 4th and 5th batch. There were also top heaven's favorites in the next two groups, but only one person said the 50th floor. No one could Serpa. Situ Feng. This made Situ Feng the center of attention, and he became the number one person among the younger generation of the chaotic astral river. As for Situ Haonan and the walkabout sect, they were naturally the subject of much flattery. A group of leaders surrounded Situ Haonan to curry favor with him, and his face was filled with smiles. My son, Situ Feng, is such a genius. My Footloose sect will definitely rise. Once my son joins the Qin Heaven 13 clans, the righteous heaven army will be destroyed with a flip of his hand. Situ Haonan thought to himself, and his eyes turned cold. After the 5th batch, the selection process had ended. Those who said were in high spirits, and those who didn't were listless. High up in the sky, the pavilion master waved her hand, and the giant pagoda shrank. She then put it away. All right, this round selection has ended. A total of 5,050 people have said the selection. At this point, the pavilion master paused for a moment and continued, however, this is only the screening I set. Don't think that just because you said it, you can take part in the 13 clans recruitment test. You still need to pass the test of the envoys from the 13 clans. Only if the envoys think you pass will you truly pass. Do you understand? Many people's hearts tightened. It turned out that they still needed to pass the test of the 13 clans. Otherwise, they wouldn't be considered qualified and might not be able to take part in the test. Alright, all of you go back first. Come back here 3 days later. At that time, the messenger will descend and personally examine all of you. The pavilion master then turned around and left. In the square, the crowd also dispersed one by one. After Lu Ming and the rest returned to the inn, they waited quietly. 3 days passed said by in the blink of an eye. 3 days later, they returned to the square again. The square was still surrounded by people. However, only Lu Ming and the rest who had successfully cleared the level last time could enter the square. Soon, all 5,060 people had gathered. They're here. Someone suddenly spoke. Everyone's eyes looked in one direction. There were a few people walking in the air from that direction. One of them was the Yunfeng Pavilion Master. However, the Cloud Peak Pavilion Master was not walking in front. Instead, he was walking behind an elder in a brocade robe with a smile on his face. The elder in the brocade robe was tall and sturdy, and he stood with his hands behind his back. He exuded a majestic aura that gave off a powerful pressure. An expert. This elder was definitely an extremely terrifying expert. He was even stronger than the pavilion master of Yunfeng Pavilion. Without a doubt, he was a heavenly god. Everyone did not need to guess to know that this was the envoy sent by the Qin Heaven's 13 factions. Emissary Lin, these are the heaven's favorites that my chaotic astral river has selected. The Cloud Peak Pavilion Master stood in the air and introduced the old man to the old man with a smile. In front of such a person, even if she was the Cloud Peak Pavilion Master, she did not dare to be careless. The elder in the brocade robe swept his gaze across Lu Ming's group of 5,060 people. He frowned slightly and said, "This is your chaotic astral river's heaven's pride? You're really too weak." The contempt in his words was self-evident. Too weak? Many people's hearts tightened. This was still too weak. These 5,060 people could be said to be the strongest group of people in the younger generation of the chaotic astral river. However, in the eyes of the brocade-robed old man, they were too weak. Some of the young heaven's favorites were very confident. Now that they were being looked down upon, they felt a little indignant. With such a standard, he still wants to partake. IP8 in the Qin Tian 13 clans test. Isn't that a little laughable? The brocade-robed old man added. This time, even the Cloud Peak Pavilion Master was embarrassed. Said. His face turned red. Alright, I'll cut to the chase. If you really want to partake. IP8 in the Qin Heavenly 13 clans disciple recruitment test, you'll have to pass me. With that, the elder in the brocade robe waved his hand, and a stone door flew out. As soon as the stone door flew out, it grew in the wind and became 1,000 feet tall. With a loud bang, it landed on the square. As long as you can pass through this door, you'll be considered to have said my test. That's why it'll be difficult for you to partake. IP8 in the Qin Heaven's 13 clans disciple recruitment test. The brocade-robed elder said. It was that simple? Many people were stunned. As long as he could pass through this door, he would be able to pass the assessment of the elder in brocade. It definitely wasn't simple. Then, many people thought this way. Their eyes flickered and many thoughts flashed through their minds. Who's first? The brocade-robed elder asked. However, for a moment, no one stepped forward. Everyone had the same thought. They didn't understand the assessment of this door and wanted to wait for others to step forward and get a feel for it. The crowd looked at each other. No one is going forward? The brocade-robed old man asked with a hint of displeasure in his eyes. "I'll do it." At this moment, Lu Ming spoke and stepped forward. It didn't matter if he went early or late, so he might as well go earlier. Moreover, Lu Ming was very confident. He was confident that he could pass it. If he could not pass it, then probably no one else in the entire chaotic astral river could. Lu Ming stepped out and came to the stone door. Everyone's eyes were fixed on him. It's this kid. He actually dares to be the first to go on stage. How stupid. I hope he doesn't pass. Outside the square, Kang Ji sneered. This brat is really stupid to scout for others. In the square, Kang Long sneered. Bang! Bang! Lu Ming did not stop. He walked at a constant speed and stepped into the stone door. Buzz! Just as Lu Ming stepped through the stone door, the door glowed and runes appeared. Then, a few beams of crimson divine light shot towards Lu Ming at lightning speed. Buzz! And NBSP whoosh. Lu Ming made his move. His palm was like a knife, continuously slashing out and destroying the rainbow lights. It was easy and there was no difficulty at all. That's when the elder in the brocade robe saw Lu Ming's attack, his eyes widened in shock and confusion. What kind of power is that? It's somewhat like the legendary path of a master, but how is it possible in a mere chaotic astral river? The brocade-robed elder muttered. The reason why he did not recognize Lu Ming's Tao of Domination was that Lu Ming had found a way to change the Tao of Domination, such as its color. Now that Lu Ming was using the Tao of Domination, the color was dark purple, which was not so obvious. As long as Lu Ming did not unleash his full power, it would not be fully revealed. Lu Ming continued to step forward. The stone door shone brightly, and more light burst out, bombarding Lu Ming. However, Lu Ming casually waved his palm and shattered all the divine light. It's very simple. Lu Ming smiled and took another step forward. This time, more divine lights came, but they were all easily destroyed by Lu Ming. After this attack, there were no more attacks. Lu Ming crossed the stone door easily. Chapter 2624. Very simple. Pass. The brocade-robed old man's voice rang out, and at the same time, many thoughts ran through his mind. This person is unique. I must pay close attention to him. Although he was not very sure that Lu Ming had mastered the path of domination, the path of domination was no small matter. If it was true, it would be terrible. He's passed, Nest, it's actually so simple. I thought it would be difficult. It seems like it's even easier than the Tower Challenge. It seems like the Pavilion Master's test is even more rigorous. That's right. If that kid can pass, he'll definitely pass. Seeing that Lu Ming had passed the test easily, many people relaxed and smiled. They all thought that the test set by the elder in brocade was very simple. Who's next? The elder in the brocade robe said. I'll do it. I'll do it. Immediately, hundreds of people shouted and rushed toward the stone gate. Since the assessment was so simple, he had to go up earlier to show off. One by one. The elder in the brocade robe said coldly, and a powerful aura pressed down, making the hundreds of young men stop. You, first. The elder in brocade pointed at a handsome young man. I'll go first. The young man laughed and rushed towards the stone door, as if he was going to rush through it in one breath. Buzz. After he stepped through the stone door immediately lit up. A few rays of divine light danced out and blasted towards the young man. The young man looked relaxed. Divine power burst forth and he waved his palm. He wanted to learn from Lu Ming and destroy the divine light with ease. However, the young man's expression changed as soon as he came into contact with the divine light. His face was full of disbelief, and then he screamed miserably as his body flew backward and fell heavily on the ground. He spat out a large mouthful of blood and his body twitched non-stop. What? Many people were stunned. How could this young man be sent flying without even being able to withstand the first attack? Just now, when Lu Ming passed the test, it was clearly very easy. What was going on? Many people were dumbfounded. The young man who had been sent flying struggled to get up and swallowed a healing pill to stabilize his injuries. Failure, next. The elder in the brocade robe said coldly. Wait a moment, senior, wait a moment. The young man who had failed shouted. What's the matter? The brocade-robed elder said. Senior, it's not fair. I don't think it's fair. When that kid passed through the stone door, the attack wasn't that strong. Why did it become so strong when I passed through? The young man cried out, feeling wronged. He could clearly see that Lu Ming's cultivation was only at the transformation void martial stage while he was at the second level of the void god stage. There was no reason why Lu Ming could pass while he could not. Impudent. You dare to doubt the envoy? The Cloud Peak Pavilion master shouted coldly. The young man immediately broke out in a cold sweat. It's fine. The elder in the brocade robe raised his hand to stop the Cloud Peak Pavilion master. Then, he glanced at the crowd and said, Let me tell you, my test is absolutely fair. However, I can also tell you that the attack of this stone door will be different according to the person who enters. The stone door will be adjusted according to the person's age, the level of divine power, and so on. Only those with higher overall talent can pass through. Ordinary people will not be able to pass through. Do you understand? Also, the Qin Heavenly 13 clans never look at your cultivation level when recruiting disciples. Because, to the Qin Heavenly 13 clans, cultivation level has no meaning. Even if you are a heavenly deity, to the Qin Heavenly 13 clans, it wouldn't be of much use. The Qin Heaven 13 clans take in disciples based on talent and potential. The voice of the elder in the brocade robe sounded in everyone's ears. Indeed, to the Qin Heavenly 13 clans, the difference in cultivation didn't mean much. In their eyes, there was no difference between a first-level void god realm and a ninth-level void god realm. What they wanted was talent and potential. However, the handsome young man still looked unwilling. On what basis could a transformation void martial stage person pass while he, who was at the second level of the void god realm, couldn't? It seems like you're still unwilling to give up. However, do you really think that you can defeat him just because your cultivation is higher than his? The brocade-robed elder said indifferently. Of course I can defeat him. I only need 3 moves, no, I only need 1 move to suppress him. The handsome young man shouted and looked at Lu Ming indignantly. Oh. Since that's the case, I'll let you have a battle and make you admit your defeat. Little fellow, are you willing to fight? The elder in the brocade robe looked at Lu Ming. No problem. Lu Ming smiled and walked to the handsome young man. Kid, I'll suppress you with 1 move and let everyone know who's qualified to take part in the 13 clans disciple recruitment test. The handsome young man said arrogantly. A cold look flashed in his eyes. Then, he rushed out and made a move with all his strength. A huge palm print fell on Lu Ming. However, Lu Ming's expression was calm. He stood there without moving as if he did not see the other party's attack. When the palm force of the other party was close, Lu Ming pointed with his finger. Pfft! The finger force was like a spear ray, directly penetrating the opponent's palm print and shooting into the opponent's shoulder. The handsome young man let out a blood-curdling screech as his shoulder was pierced through. The powerful force sent him flying to the edge of the square, and he fell heavily on the ground, spitting out a large mouthful of blood. The scene suddenly became quiet. 1 move, just 1 move, Lu Ming defeated the handsome young man. Just like when he passed through the stone door, he did so easily. What a powerful genius. Many people were shocked. Lu Ming was only at the transformation void martial stage, but he was able to defeat a second-level void god realm expert. It was truly unbelievable. After Lu Ming pointed with his finger, he turned around and walked back. He was only a second-level virtual god who could control ordinary divine power. To Lu Ming, he was not challenging at all. What a powerful divine power. If he breaks through to the martial god realm, even if it's not divine-grade divine power, it'll be king-grade divine power. I didn't expect that the chaotic astral river would actually have such a powerful heaven's favorite. The elder's eyes brightened. Humph. Kong Long, Situ Shao, and the rest snorted coldly. They were very displeased to see Lu Ming in the limelight. Situ Feng, on the other hand, looked calm. No one could tell what he was thinking. Do you see this? My stone door is absolutely fair. The assessment will continue. A loss is a loss, and a win is a win. If anyone has any more doubts, they will be disqualified immediately. The brocade-robed elder announced in an overbearing manner. Earlier on, he had agreed to the handsome young man's challenge mainly because he wanted to see Lu Ming fight. Otherwise, if the handsome young man dared to doubt him, he would have long been chased away. The test continued. Another young man stepped forward, but he also failed and was sent flying out of the stone door. Chapter 26-25 Myriad Spirit Planet. As the number of people taking the test increased, the crowd was shocked to find that the difficulty of the test in the stone door was shockingly high. The elimination rate was shockingly high. Out of 10 people, only one person could pass. At this moment, everyone understood that they had completely underestimated Lu Ming. Lu Ming could pass through easily, not because the difficulty of the stone door was low, but because he was talented and powerful. Situ Feng has made his move. Someone suddenly spoke. Situ Feng walked toward the stone door calmly. A combat sword appeared in his hand, and sword light burst forth. Every time he stabbed, it would hit nothing. It didn't collide with the divine light from the stone door, but the divine light would dissipate one by one. Situ Feng also said the test easily. Good comprehension. The elder in the brocade robe nodded slightly. After Situ Feng, it was Kong Long, Situ Shao, and the others. Kong Long and Situ Shao both controlled king-grade divine power. Although it was not easy, they still said. However, the other two from the Yuanluo Palace and the Walkabout sect had failed. This way, only 3 people from the Yuanluo Palace and the Walkabout sect said the test. Soon, Dandan, Xian Yanqing, Xian Yanjuan, Tong Shi, and the others also stepped forward. As the divine turtle of the world, Dandan also had amazing potential after becoming a god. She had also mastered king-grade divine power and said the assessment. Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan loosened their grip, which made the old man's eyes light up again. Following that, Tong Shi also said the test, but the rest of the righteous army had all failed. In this way, the righteous army, Lu Ming and the rest, a total of 5 people said. This made Kong Ji, Situ Haonan and the rest's expressions turn ugly. The Stone Gate assessment continued for a few days. Finally, all 5,060 people had been tested. 500 people. In the end, only 500 people said the test of the stone door. The others all failed. The success rate was shockingly low. In the entire chaotic astral river, there were close to 1,000 powers and 50,000 to 60,000 young Heaven's Pride experts. In the end, only 500 people said the test. A 1 in 100 chance. Alright, my test is over. The 500 of you can head to the Qin Heaven Star System's Myriad Spirit Planet to take part in the Qin Heaven 13 Clans test. Take this jade token. With that, the elder in the brocade robe waved his hand and 500 jade tokens flew out, flying toward Lu Ming and the others. They stretched out their hands and with the help of the jade token, each of them got one. The jade token felt warm and heavy in his hand. There were lines of tiny runes on it, and it looked very beautiful. On one side of the jade token, there was a picture of ruins. The picture of the ruins on this jade plate is the symbol of the chaotic astral river. Different galaxies have different pictures and symbols. The brocade-robed elder said. Many people smile bitterly. Indeed, in the eyes of many powerful and wealthy galaxies, the chaotic astral river is nothing but a wasteland. Now, use your own blood to engrave your names on the jade tokens. This jade token will then be bound to you. Only you can use it. Even if others take it, they won't be able to use it. This is the proof that you will be able to partake. P8 in the Qin Tian 13 Clans A.S. assessment. The brocade-robed elder said. Lu Ming forced out a drop of blood and wrote the 2 words, Lu Ming, on the jade tablet. After he was done, the blood seeped into the jade token and disappeared. The jade token was completely bound to Lu Ming's aura. Other than Lu Ming, no one else could use it. This was to prevent anyone from taking action against the partic. P ants, SN, hing their jade tokens and impersonating them. In this way, even if he SN, had the jade token, it would be of no use. Alright, the Qin Heaven 13 Clans test will be held on planet Myriad Spirit in 3 months. You can make your way there in 3 months. However, I can tell you in advance that don't think that you can join the Qin Tian 13 High School just because you said my test. It's extremely difficult to join the Qin Tian 13 clans. It's already not bad if 20 of you can join the Qin Tian 13 clans. The elder in the brocade robe turned around and left with the pavilion master and the others. It's already not bad to have 20 people join. Many people's hearts trembled, and their expressions turned grave. Everyone had their own thoughts as they left the place. Let's go back to the Jingtian army. I'll make some arrangements and take you to planet 1000 Spirits. The ancestor of technique said. After that, everyone returned to True Heaven Star through the teleportation formation. Lu Ming returned to his residence and explained the matter to his parents. He also bade his parents farewell. If he were to join a sect on planet Myriad Spirit, he probably wouldn't be back for a while. The ancestor of technique had also settled the matters of the righteous army. Then, he set off with Lu Ming and the rest. Lu Xiangxiang and Ouyang Moli remained on True Sky Star. However, Bubbles kept pestering Lu Ming and wanted to follow him. Lu Ming brought Bubbles along. Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, Xian Yanjuan, Dandan, Bubbles, Tong Shi, and the ancestor of technique. A total of 7 people headed towards planet 1000 Spirits. Myriad Spirit Star was located at the center of Qin Heaven's galaxy. It was at least a few dozen galaxies away from the chaotic astral river. It was simply too far away. Even if they took the teleportation formation, it would take a long time. They first arrived at Cloud Peak City and took the super long-distance teleportation array in Cloud Peak City to be teleported to the next galaxy. And NBSP afterward, they used super long-distance teleportation arrays to travel at a faster speed, but the divine crystals they used up were also astonishing. He couldn't just build a teleportation formation for nothing. Every time he built a teleportation formation, he would have to use up divine crystals. Even so, it still took them nearly 2 months to get to planet 1000 Spirits. There was less than a month left before the 3-month deadline. What a dense divine chi. Standing on planet 1000 Spirits, he took a deep breath and felt the divine chi rush into his body. He felt very comfortable. The training environment here is much better than the chaotic astral river. The difference is huge. Myriad Spirit Star was located in the center of the Qin Heaven Star Zone. It was the biggest trading planet in the Qin Heaven Star Zone. This planet didn't belong to any single power. Countless powers, big and small, were doing business here, and it was extremely prosperous. The Qin Heavenly 13 Clans recruitment test had always been held on Myriad Spirit Planet. The location was the largest city on planet 1000 Spirits, 1000 Spirit City. After Lu Ming and the group arrived at Wanling City, they found an inn to stay in. As time passed, more and more people arrived in Wanling City. On the streets, one could easily see groups of young sovereigns. Some of them had extremely terrifying auras. At a glance, they seemed to be extremely powerful monsters. The Qin Heaven Star region had a total of several hundred galaxies. The chaotic astral river was the worst and the one that no one paid attention to. Any of the other galaxies are more prosperous and powerful than the chaotic astral river. The number of Heaven's Pride experts in the other galaxies is also far beyond the chaotic astral river. In the chaotic astral river, only 500 people have PAS, said the test, and can take part in the exam. However, in the other galaxies, even the worst would still have thousands of people who could take the AS assessment. The higher ones had thousands or even tens of thousands of people. Chapter 26-26. Assessment rules. Every 1,000 years, the Qin Heaven 13 clans would recruit disciples. It was a grand event in the hearts of countless geniuses in the Qin Heaven Star region. It was also the day when countless geniuses would soar to the sky. Soon, there were only 3 days left before the AS assessment. On this day, the sound of bells rang throughout the city. Let's go. It's a gathering order from the Qin Heaven 13 clans. It's time to announce the rules of the AS assessment. The ancestor of technique said. He led Lu Ming and the rest in the direction of the bell. In the middle of Wanling City, there was a vast open SPCE. It was originally a huge market, but during this period of time, the market was removed and used for the AS assessment. This open SPCE was too big. It would not be a problem to accommodate hundreds of millions of people at the same time. Very quickly, this open SPCE was already filled with people. Not only were there young Heaven's Pride experts who wanted to take part in the AS assessment, but there were also many people who wanted to watch the fun. In fact, there were more people who came to watch the show than those who participated in the AS assessment. Buzz. Buzz. At this time, a few figures suddenly appeared in the sky, and the scene quieted down. There are 3 more days before the examination. Now, I'll explain the details of the examination and the rules. In the sky, an imposing man spoke. The scene was silent. Everyone listened quietly, afraid to miss any details. Each of you should have an ident. I jade token to partic. P8 in the examination. The middle-aged man took out a jade card. It was almost the same as the one Lu Ming and the rest had. The only difference was the pattern on it. 3 days from now, when the time for the test is up, as long as you are within Wanling City, no matter where you are, this jade token will bring you to a virtual SPCE. We call it the Dream SPCE. In the Dream SPCE, everything is virtual. Only your consciousness can enter it. Furthermore, your cultivation will be suppressed to first-level Void God Realm in the Dream SPCE. If you're already at the first level of the Void God Realm, then it won't change. If you're not at the first level of the Void God Realm, it won't change either. However, although your cultivation has been suppressed to first-level Void God Realm, the attributes of your divine power will not change. If you control King-grade divine power, it will still be King-grade divine power inside. If you control Sacred-grade divine power, it will still be Sacred-grade divine power. There are 2 rounds in the test. In the first round, the Dream Realm will be divided into 20 areas. All the ants will be evenly divided into 20 areas and fight. However, there's one thing that you can rest assured about. Before you enter the 20 regions to fight, you will enter a special region. There are many incomplete divine skills there. These incomplete divine skills can be cultivated to the point where they can burst out with power even if you're at the first level of the Void God Realm. From now on, you will have a year to comprehend the incomplete divine skill. Then, you will enter the 20 regions and fight to determine the ranking. This time, we've calculated that the entire Qin Tian galaxy, hundreds of galaxies, has a total of about 1 million people participating in the AS assessment. At that time, each region will have 50,000 people. 50,000 people will kill each other. The rule is that every time you kill an opponent, you will get 1 point. At the same time, you will take half of the opponent's points. Each person has 2 lives, which is 2 chances. In the end, only the top 100 of each region can partake. IP8 in the next round. Those who don't make it into the top 100 will be eliminated. The middle-aged man explained all of the rules in one breath. After he was done, he stopped and allowed everyone to digest them. I see. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat and he made a conclusion in his heart. The assessment this time was very simple. It was divided into 2 rounds. There would be around 1 million people partake. IP8ing. The jade card would bring them into the dream SPCE. If they were killed in there, they wouldn't really die. Their cultivation would be suppressed to first-level ethereal god realm. Of course, for people like Lu Ming who were below first-level virtual god level, they could only keep it as it was. Then, they would have a year to comprehend the incomplete divine skill, and the 1 million or so people would enter 20 regions. Each region would have 50,000 or so people, and the 50,000 or so people would fight each other to obtain points. Only the top 100 people would be able to enter the next round. Furthermore, each person had 2 chances. This was also for the sake of fairness. It would be a bit of a waste if some geniuses were killed by a powerful enemy from the beginning. There are actually over 1 million people partake. IP8ing. Lu Ming was also secretly shocked. After a while, when everyone had digested the information, the middle-aged man continued. Those who are eliminated in the first round might have a chance to join the Qin Tian 13 clans. As long as you perform well and obtain higher points, you will have a chance to be selected by the 13 clans. Of course, the better you perform, the more attention you'll receive. Alright, let's get to the point. The specific rules will be shown on your jade tokens. Take a good look at it. Do you have any questions? After the middle-aged man finished speaking, he swept his gaze across the entire scene. Senior, I have a question. At this moment, a young man spoke. Speak. The middle-aged man said. Senior, why did you suppress your cultivation to the first level of the Void God Realm? If I cultivate to the 6th level of the Void God Realm, won't I be unable to unleash my full power? The young man said. 6th level of the Void God Realm? Do you think you're a genius? The middle-aged man asked. The young man didn't say anything, but his expression clearly showed that he agreed. Cultivation will never represent one's talent. I can tell you that within the Qin Heaven 13 clans, there are plenty of people who have reached the 6th level of the Void God Realm within 10,000 years of cultivation. You can find them all over the streets. There are many true body realm experts who have cultivated for less than 10,000 years. Some of them have even reached the Heavenly God Realm. What is a 9th level Void God Realm expert like you? Would the Qin Heavenly 13 clans lack a 6th level Void God Realm expert? As long as the Qin Heavenly 13 clans give the order, how many 6th level Void God Realm existences can the Qin Heavenly Star System gather? The middle-aged man's repeated questions made the young man speechless. There are many ways to increase one's cultivation. There are heavenly treasures, fortuitous encounters, or long periods of cultivation. Therefore, cultivation is of no use to the Qin Heaven 13 clans. When the Qin Heaven 13 clans recruit disciples, they look at talent, potential, and cultivation. There are plenty of ways to raise it. It'll suppress all of your cultivation to the first level of the Void God Realm and give you 1 year to test your talent and comprehension. Only those with high talent and comprehension can join the Qin Heavenly 13 clans. Do you understand? The middle-aged man said. The young man's face turned red, but he didn't say anything. He came from a big force and had consumed countless natural treasures to reach his current cultivation level. However, in the Qin Heavenly 13 clans, would there be a lack of natural treasures? Chapter 26-27 Entering the Dream SPCE. Many people also revealed thoughtful expressions. Indeed, one's talent and comprehension could only be seen under such an assessment mechanism. In the martial god realm, talent and comprehension were the most important. That was why they kept their divine power levels and gave them a year to comprehend the incomplete divine skill before they started fighting. This way, those with high Shen power and high comprehension would be able to stand out. Mastering high-level divine power was a talent. However, one's perception was also very important. This was because the level of Shen power was not innate, but could be cultivated. Some terrifying and exquisite divine skills could cultivate king-grade divine power, sacred-grade divine power, and even divine-grade divine power. Within the Qin Heaven's 13 clans, there were all such terrifying divine techniques. As long as one cultivated it to an extremely high level, one would be able to cultivate a high-level divine power. It was said that when the three overlord forces' divine techniques were cultivated to the highest level, they could cultivate divine-grade divine power. Thus, if a person's Shen power level was not high but his comprehension was amazing, his future would be limitless. Of course, there were some people who did not cultivate these divine skills and naturally cultivated high-level Shen power, and there were many of them. Lu Ming, Tong Shi, and the others were all like this. Of the disciples that the Qin Heavenly 13 clans wanted to recruit, one had to have a high level of divine power, while the other had to have extraordinary comprehension. Also, let me tell you all. Some of you came from some major powers and might have already cultivated some incomplete divine skills. However, in the Dream SPCE, you are not allowed to use the incomplete divine skills that you have already cultivated. You can only use the incomplete divine skills that you have comprehended in the Dream SPCE. Once you violate this rule, you will be eliminated. The Qin Heavenly 13 clans will never recruit you again. Do you understand? The middle-aged man's voice reverberated throughout the entire area. Understood. Many people shouted. All right, I'll stop here. Good luck. Then, the middle-aged man and the others turned around and left. After the middle-aged man and the rest left, the rest of the people in the square also slowly dispersed. Lu Ming and the rest also returned to their lodgings. Not long after he returned to his residence, a large amount of information appeared on the jade token. It was all about the assessment and some rules. Lu Ming and the rest looked at it carefully again and then made preparations actively. There were only 3 days left before the assessment began. Not only them, but everyone else was actively preparing for it. A group of people stood in a huge courtyard. They were all tall and burly, as if they were made of metal. These people were a branch of the King Kong race, a terrifying race in the primeval universe. The Vajra race was a very powerful race in the primeval universe. It ranked in the top 10,000 among the countless races in the primeval universe. There was a list of 10,000 races in the primeval universe, which listed the 10,000 most powerful races in the primeval universe. The Diamond race was one of them. However, the main clan of the King Kong race wasn't in the Qin Heaven Star domain. The Qin Heaven Star domain was only a branch. At this moment, dozens of Vajra race members were surrounding a young Vajra race member like stars surrounding the moon. This young Vajra race man was even more burly and was 3 meters tall. Golden Sage, you're a rare genius that only appears once every 100,000 years in the Qin Tian branch of the King Kong race. This time, you must rank in the top 3 in the Qin Tian 13 clans assessment and join one of the 3 overlords. An elderly King Kong ordered. Don't worry, clan leader. It's just the top 3. I'm 100% confident. The Golden Sage said with a confident smile. On a mountain in Wanling City, this place had been bought by a group of tiger men. The Tiger Men tribe was only a small tribe in the entire primeval universe. They were far from being ranked in the top 10,000. However, in the Qin Heaven Star Zone, the Tiger Men tribe's strength could not be underestimated. Roar! At the peak of the mountain, a young tiger man roared towards the sky. The wind and clouds surged, and his aura was wild. This time, the top 3, no, I'm aiming for the first place. The young tiger man's eyes were like lightning, and he was filled with the aura of a king. To the north of Wanling City, there was a lake. It was not big, but it was very clean. It was like a mirror, and one could clearly see the fish in the lake. There was a simple pavilion by the lake. At this moment, there were 2 figures in the pavilion, looking at the calm lake. One of them was a white-haired old man in a long white robe. He looked like a sage. The other person was a young man who looked to be in his 20s. This young man was handsome and was also wearing a white robe, like an elegant young master. Are you confident about this time's Qin Tian 13 clan examination? The old man asked the young man. The young man was called Ling Hu Yi. According to the rules this time, I'm 100% confident that the first place will be mine. Ling Hu Yi said. His face was calm, without any pride, as if he was just stating a fact. Good. With your talent, as long as you give it your all, the first place will definitely be yours. Moreover, you'll definitely be able to enter the 3 overlord forces and even receive special training. The white-haired old man stroked his beard and looked at Ling Hu Yi with satisfaction. If they did not enter the Dream SPCE and fought outside, Ling Hu Yi would not have such an advantage. However, the rules this time gave him 1 year to comprehend and cultivate an incomplete divine skill, which was Ling Hu Yi's biggest advantage. Ling Hu Yi's comprehension was the strongest that the old man had seen in countless years. Although Ling Hu Yi's divine power level was not high, it was because he lacked opportunities and divine skills. However, Ling Hu Yi's terrifying comprehension could make up for it. And NBSP, the old man was filled with anticipation. As long as Ling Hu Yi joined the 3 overlord forces and was nurtured, he would definitely be able to reach a terrifying realm. In the blink of an eye, 3 days passed. On this day, Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, Xian Yanjuan, and Tong Shi were gathered in a room. They sat cross-legged in a circle. There was no need to go to a specific place to partake. IP8 in the assessment. As long as they were in Wanling City, the Tai Jade card would bring them into the Dream SPCE. Buzz. Buzz. Woo woo woo. At that moment, the jade tokens in Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, and the others' hands trembled slightly. They emitted a bright light and floated above their heads. Then, a beam of light fell from the jade token and enveloped them. Then, Lu Ming and the rest felt that their spirits and souls had been drawn out and flew into the jade card. It was pitch black in front of them. Almost instantly, their eyes lit up as they opened their eyes. When they opened their eyes, they found that they were on a huge platform, and in front of the platform was a stone tablet. Countless stone tablets stood on the vast land. Each stone tablet was 100 meters tall, and there were some words and pictures carved on each stone tablet. There were too many steals. There was no end to them. Is the incomplete divine skill on this stone tablet? Lu Ming's heart stirred. They were going to stay here for a year to comprehend and cultivate the incomplete divine skill. Chapter 2628 Tiger Tribe's Provocation. At this moment, Lu Ming noticed that a badge had appeared on their chests. On the badge was a picture of a ruin that was made of jade. This was their symbol. People who came from different galaxies all had a badge with a different pattern on their chest. There's no change in my cultivation. Then, Lu Ming carefully sensed his body and realized that his cultivation level had not changed at all. He was still a 7-star celestial emperor, and the power of domination was surging. Of course, their weapons and storage rings could not be brought in. In reality, weapons were not allowed in this compet. Tie-in. If one wanted to use a weapon, they would have to use divine power and rely on their own abilities. Is your cultivation base being suppressed? Lu Ming looked at Xian Yanqing, Xian Yanjuan, Tong Shi, and Dandan. I've been suppressed to the first level of the Void God realm, but my divine power level hasn't changed. Xian Yinqing said. Me too. Tong Shi also nodded. There's no change in mine. Dandan said. His cultivation was at the first level of the Void God realm, so there was no change. Lu Ming nodded. It was indeed the same as what the rules said. At this moment, on the platform, many people flashed and rushed toward the stone tablets. Time was limited. They only had a year's time. A year's time to comprehend an incomplete divine skill was too short. They had to seize the time to find an incomplete divine skill that was suitable for them and cultivate it. With every moment he cultivated, he might be able to reach a higher level of maturity. When he fought with others, he would have an advantage. Millions of people rushed into the vast stone tablets, looking for a divine skill that suited them. Lu Ming and the rest also rushed down the platform and headed for the stone tablet. Soon, they arrived at the first huge stone tablet. At this moment, two young men were already looking at the stone tablet carefully. On the stone tablet, there were lines of words and pictures. This was a palm technique that leaned towards the feminine side. Lu Ming and the rest took a few glances and then directly ignored it. It was not suitable. They continued forward. As they walked, they attracted the attention of many people. The two sisters, Xian Yinqing and Xian Yinjuan, were simply too beautiful when they walked together. The two of them looked exactly the same, and it was hard not to attract attention. What beautiful women, and they look exactly the same. Look at their badges, they are from the chaotic astral river. I never thought that there would be such a beautiful woman in the chaotic astral river. Who is that person? He's actually walking together with such a beautiful woman. Many people around them were discussing as they looked at Xian Yinqing and Xian Yinjuan with fiery eyes. Tong Shi could be considered a stunning beauty, but when she stood next to Xian Yinqing and Xian Yinjuan, she paled in comparison. Ever since Xian Yinqing and Xian Yinjuan broke through to the battle god realm, their temperament had become more and more extraordinary. Even people with similar looks could not compare to them. When many people looked at Lu Ming, they were filled with envy, jealousy, and hatred. Although Dandan was still following Lu Ming, she looked like a 16 or 17-year-old teenager and was wearing a Taoist robe. Naturally, she was ignored by the others. Xian Yinqing and Xian Yanjin's faces were cold. They ignored the gazes of others and focused on finding a suitable divine skill. What beautiful women! Not far away, a dozen burly figures were looking at Xian Yinqing and Xian Yinjuan with fiery eyes. These dozen over people were all elites of the Tiger clan. The Tiger men did not have the appearance of a tiger from head to toe. They looked very similar to humans, but they had stripes on their faces. They were tiger stripes. Each of them was more than 2 meters tall and had thick hair. How can I miss such a beauty? Let's go and get to know her. One of the Tiger men youths with golden fur laughed and walked towards Lu Ming and the others. The other dozen or so Tiger men youths laughed and followed. Their figures flickered and more than 10 Tiger men youths blocked Lu Ming and the others. Lu Ming and the rest also stopped. The dozen or so young men from the Tiger tribe scanned Xian Yinqing, Xian Yinjuan, and Tong Shi with burning eyes. Chaotic Astral River? I didn't expect that there would be such a beauty in the chaotic astral river. We are the heaven's pride of the Tiger clan. My name is Hu Mao. Beautiful lady, how about we be friends? The golden-furred Tigerman youth revealed a confident smile. Lu Ming, Dandan, and the rest almost burst out laughing. Tiger fur? This name was quite profound. However, Xian Yinjuan didn't want to laugh. With a cold expression, she scolded, "Get lost, you have a strong temper." However, my Tiger clan likes people with strong tempers the most. Brothers, don't you? Hu Mao didn't mind and teased him instead. Not bad, the fiercer the temper, the better. It's fun to play with. Ha ha ha. The other young Tiger men laughed. At the side, the other people looked over with an expression of watching a show. I already told you to get lost, didn't you hear me? Are you deaf or what? Get lost immediately. At this moment, Lu Ming berated. The smile on the tiger youth's face instantly disappeared, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. Kid, what did you say? A mere piece of trash from the chaotic astral river dares to speak to us like this? Are you tired of living? I'll give you 3 seconds to get lost. Get as far away as you can. What right do you have to stand next to 2 beautiful women? The dozen or so young men of the tiger tribe all roared as their bodies flashed with cold killing intent. 3, 2, 1. Lu Ming said disdainfully, counting the time for Xian Yanqing. 3 seconds later, Lu Ming stepped forward and held Xian Yanqing's hand. He said in disdain, a bunch of idiots. Provocation, disdain, and mockery. This was a blatant mockery. Killing intent exploded from the bodies of the Tigermen youths. Kid, kneel down and admit your mistake. Slap yourself 100 times. Otherwise, it'll make you die without a burial place. The tiger was furious and revealed its uneven fangs. Oh. If you have the ability, then do it. Lu Ming said in disdain. You, Hu Mao and the other young men of the tiger tribe glared at Lu Ming with wide eyes. However, they did not dare to make a move. The assessment had not started yet. During this 1 year of comprehending and cultivating the incomplete divine skill, no one was allowed to make a move. Whoever made a move would be disqualified. If not for that, Hu Mao and the rest would have long torn Lu Ming into pieces. Kid, you've got guts. Just you wait. Don't meet anyone from my tiger tribe in the assessment 1 year from now. Otherwise, you'll die a terrible death. Hu Mao spoke coldly before turning to the other tiger men. Brothers, go and inform the other clan members. If they meet this person in the assessment, kill him without mercy. Kill him ruthlessly. Alright, there are so many people in my tiger tribe. He's dead for sure. He'll die a terrible death. The other tiger men all called out. Chapter 2629 Comprehending an Incomplete Divine Skill, A Bunch of Idiots. Little Qin, let's go. Lu Ming pulled Xian Yanqing, Xian Yanjuan, Tong Shi, and Dandan, directly sing by the Tigermen tribe and heading deep into the forest of stone steels. The dozen or so tiger tribe youths nearly exploded in anger, and they gritted their teeth so hard that they made cracking sounds. This brat is too impulsive. He actually dared to offend the heavens' favorite of the Tigermen race. I reckon that in the chaotic astral river, he's a peak great heavens pride expert and is used to being arrogant. However, in a mere chaotic astral river, he's a tyrant. In the entire Qin Tian star field, he's nothing, that's right. The Tigermen tribe is a large tribe in the Qin heaven star domain. There are hundreds of star rivers in the Qin heaven star domain, and the Tigermen tribe occupies one of them. They are extremely powerful. I heard that there are thousands of Tigermen tribe geniuses participating in the 13 clans assessment this time. That's right, there are indeed thousands of people. Even if they are divided into 20 regions, there will definitely be a large number of people from the tiger tribe in each region. I also heard that there is a peerless genius in the tiger tribe who can control sacred grade divine power. That kid will die a miserable death. It's not wise to show off your power in front of a beauty. The surrounding people who had seen this scene were in a heated discussion. These voices naturally reached Lu Ming's ears. However, Lu Ming only smiled faintly and did not take it to heart. At that time, when he was divided into 20 areas to fight, he would be more than happy if the Tigermen tribe came to find trouble with him. Giving him points, what was there to be unhappy about? Lu Ming and the rest wandered around the stone tablets, looking at each of them. Not long after, Xian Yanjuan stopped in front of a stone tablet. There was a sword technique carved on the stone tablet, and with just a glance, it seemed as if a holy sword light was bursting out. It's a pretty good sword technique. I'll choose this one, Xian Yinjuan said. Then, he stood under the stele and began to read it carefully. Lu Ming and the rest continued to search. This forest of stone steles was extremely large and contained a vast number of incomplete divine skills. An incomplete offensive divine skill, an incomplete defensive divine skill, an incomplete movement divine skill. It had everything. After more than a day, Dandan and Tong Shi had found suitable incomplete divine skills and started to cultivate them. I'll practice this sword technique. Xian Yanqing walked to a stone tablet. This stone tablet also recorded a sword technique. The sword technique was sharp and fierce, and demonic qi soared into the sky. Both Xian Yanqing and Xian Yinjuan were good at swordsmanship, so they each chose one. Lu Ming was left alone. He continued to wander around. Lu Ming realized that most of the people had chosen the incomplete attack-type divine skills. That's right, even if it was an incomplete divine skill, the difficulty of cultivating it would definitely be extremely shocking. They only had 1 year, so they naturally had to choose to cultivate attack-type divine skills to increase their attack power so that they could kill their opponents as soon as possible in the A.S. assessment a year later and obtain points. Lu Ming wandered around for a long time. This one. Lu Ming came to a stone tablet. This stone tablet recorded an incomplete spear technique. Moreover, there was no one under the stone tablet. Lu Ming simply chose this. Immediately, Lu Ming began to read it carefully. This spear technique didn't have a name. In fact, all the incomplete divine skills here didn't have names. They were all evolved from complete divine skills by some experts of the Qin Heaven 13 clans. To the experts at the peak of ethereal god realm and above, it had no practical use. Those experts could already cultivate the complete divine technique. However, it was still very useful for the cultivation of experts below the peak of the void god realm. What an exquisite divine skill! After studying it, Lu Ming felt emotional. Shen skills were the exquisite use of Shen power. They were powerful and very exquisite. It was much more difficult to comprehend than the various techniques in the heaven realm. The incomplete divine skill before him had a total of 7 stages. However, it was extremely difficult to cultivate the first stage. Lu Ming abandoned all distracting thoughts and focused on his comprehension. This comprehension lasted for a month. In a month's time, Lu Ming had not even learned the basics. Whoosh! 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 Lu Ming condensed a long spear with his dominator's power. The long spear vibrated at a strange frequency, sometimes whipping and sometimes stabbing forward. The spear's radiance flickered. However, Lu Ming stopped halfway through his cultivation. No, it's still not right. Once this spear technique is successfully cultivated, each spear strike can trigger layers of force. The force will be superimposed and the power will be infinite. There will also be many different changes, but I still can't find that feeling. The divine power is circulating incorrectly. Many thoughts ran through Lu Ming's mind as he summarized what he had learned from his previous cultivation. Half a day later, Lu Ming started to comprehend again. The difficulty of cultivating an incomplete divine skill was too high. Even with Lu Ming's comprehension and talent, it was already so difficult to comprehend it. One could imagine the difficulty for the others. Time flew by, and another month passed. Buzz! The long spear in Lu Ming's hand swept out and a terrifying roar burst out in the air. It rang 3 times and then disappeared. Success! I've finally stepped into the first stage. Lu Ming revealed a look of joy. After more than 2 months of hard work, Lu Ming had finally cultivated the incomplete divine skill to the first level. At the first level, a single strike of the spear would have 3 levels of power exploding out in an instant. The power was extremely shocking. At the same time, there were 3 changes contained within, making it difficult to grasp and guard against. If one cultivated it to the second level, one spear could have 5 levels of power and 5 changes. The higher the level of cultivation, the stronger the power. Continue. Lu Ming continued to study. After cultivating to the first stage, the difficulty of cultivation became even greater. For any divine skill, the later it was, the more difficult it would be. If even the initial stage was so difficult, one could imagine how difficult it would be later on. Lu Ming was focused on his cultivation and did not care about the outside world. Half a year later, Lu Ming finally broke through to the second level of this spear technique. At this point, Lu Ming and the rest had been here for 8 months. There were still 4 months to go before the A.S. assessment began. 4 months passed, said in the blink of an eye. The 1-year period was up. Unfortunately, Lu Ming's spear technique was still stuck at the second level and had not reached the third level. Buzz. 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 All of a sudden, a buzzing sound rang out in the sky. In the sky, a series of symbols appeared, and they were extremely colorful. It's about to start. It's finally starting. Many people were whispering. Some people were nervous, but some people revealed looks of anticipation. Suddenly, pillars of light appeared in the sky and enveloped everyone. Then, everyone flew into the sky along the pillars of light and disappeared. The next moment, Lu Ming realized that he had appeared in a room. This place. Is this the area for the A.S. assessment? Lu Ming muttered. This A.S. assessment would be divided into 20 different areas. More than 1 million people would enter 20 different areas and fight. As for which region they would enter, it was completely random. Chapter 2630 Battle begins at this moment. In Wanling City, the market where the news was announced a year ago was already full of people. Countless people had gathered here. At this moment, 20 huge screens appeared in the sky above the open SPCE. On these 20 huge screens, there were names. On each screen, there were more than 50,000 names. All of them were the names of the ants. Behind each name, there was a corresponding galaxy. For example, Lu Ming's name appeared in the 20th zone. Behind the name, it was marked with the words, Chaotic Astral River. Xian Yanqing was in the first region, while Xian Yanjuan was in the third region. Tong Shi was in the 10th region, and Dandan was in the 18th region. Quick, find out which district Kong Long is in. Also, Feng Shao is in that area. In the crowd, Kang Ji, Situ Haonan and the others started to search. With their eyesight, they could naturally see 1,000 things with a single glance. Their speed was amazing, and it didn't take long for them to find the area where Kang Long, Situ Shao, Situ Feng, and the others were. This time, over 1,000 people had come to the chaotic astral river under the leadership of the master of the Yunfeng Pavilion. They had all come to watch the battle. The ancestor of technique was also among them, not far from Kang Long and the others. They weren't the only ones. People from the other galaxies were also looking for the heavens' favorites from their own factions. At the moment, the names appeared randomly, but once the fight started, the names would be arranged according to the score. The one with the highest score would be in first place until the end of the 3 months. The top 100 geniuses in each region would be the victors, and the others would be eliminated. They only looked at the points, not whether they were killed. As long as you had enough points to rank in the top 100, you could advance even if you were killed. It's starting, the 6th region. Wuxia has points, so fast, already 3 points. Someone shouted. In the beginning, each of them only had 1 point. 1 point for each person they killed. In other words, Wuxia had already killed 3 people. In the other areas, the Golden Sage is not any slower. The killing has started. Many people have ACCU Mulat points. The names on the 20 screens kept flashing. Some names would appear in the first, second, or even higher positions. The corresponding points would also appear behind the names. There were more than 1 million names flashing non-stop. Only the experts present could see them clearly. If it were an ordinary person, they would have been dazzled with a single glance. The 20th region. Lu Ming opened the door and walked out. Did I just appear in a city? Lu Ming guessed that he was now in a courtyard. He could see other tall buildings in other places. Wait, we can't fly in this area. Lu Ming was about to soar into the sky to observe the situation when he suddenly felt that his body was as heavy as a mountain. He could not fly at all. Flying was prohibited in this area. Boom! Suddenly, a violent roar came from a tall building not far away. The building rumbled and the walls exploded. Lu Ming saw two figures engaged in a fierce battle. The two of them had similar combat strength. In the intense battle, it was difficult to determine the winner. Bang! At this moment, the door of the courtyard that Lu Ming was in was blasted open. Broken wood flew in all directions and a tall and burly figure walked in. The person glanced at the badge on Lu Ming's chest and revealed a sinister sneer. A piece of trash from the chaotic astral river just happened to become the first person I killed and my first point. Bang! Bang! The man stepped forward and condensed a saber with his divine power, slashing it at Lu Ming. This was an incomplete divine skill that he had cultivated. The blade light was extremely fast and filled with a brutal aura. Lu Ming's face was calm. He condensed a long spear with the power of the ruler in his hand and thrust it out. Whoosh! The spear was as fast as lightning, and in the blink of an eye, 5 changes occurred. The other party wanted to block it, but for a moment, he did not know how to block it. Poochie! Lu Ming's long spear pierced through the area between the opponent's eyebrows. You! The other party's eyes were wide open, and his face was full of disbelief. Initially, he had wanted to kill Lu Ming and let him be the first point he had obtained. He did not expect to die in Lu Ming's hands in one move. How could a person from the chaotic astral river be so powerful? I'm sorry, but what you said is exactly what I wanted to say. It's your honor to contribute your first point to me. Lu Ming smiled faintly. Then, he shook the long spear and the other party's body was torn into pieces, turning into energy and dissipating. Of course, there were 2 chances this time. The other party could still resurrect in other places and continue to fight. If he died a second time, he would have no more chances. The points would be the same. After killing one person, the badge on Lu Ming's chest suddenly glowed with a faint light. A message appeared in Lu Ming's mind. Lu Ming, 20th region. From the chaotic astral river. 1 point. Ranking, 28560. So this badge has this use. Lu Ming smiled. This way, he would be able to know his ranking at all times. 3 months is enough. Lu Ming smiled and walked out of the courtyard. After walking out of the courtyard, they arrived at a wide street. On both sides of the street, there were all kinds of buildings. At this moment, the outcome of the battle had already been decided. One of them was killed, but the other was injured. He didn't dare to stay any longer and fled in the dark. Buzz! Lu Ming's figure moved and he rushed up to a house. Then, he started to run around the room. It was very dangerous to do so. It was easy to be targeted by others. However, Lu Ming did this on purpose. Instead of looking for those people one by one, it was better to let others find him. As expected, someone made a move. From one of the buildings, a figure pounced on Lu Ming like an arrow. At the same time, a sharp sword light stabbed at Lu Ming's forehead. Good! Lu Ming fired a shot with his backhand. Clang! The long spear hit the sword light of the other party. The other party's body shook violently and was thrown back. Blood spurted out of his mouth and his eyes were full of disbelief. He could clearly sense that Lu Ming's cultivation was only at the transformation void martial stage and had not reached the void god stage. As for him, although his cultivation base was suppressed here, he was still at first level void god realm. However, he was sent flying by Lu Ming and suffered serious injuries in an instant. Kill! Lu Ming stomped his feet heavily and his figure shot out. At the same time, a sharp spear gleam pierced through the void and killed the other party in the air. He was killed easily. Lu Ming's expression did not change. The divine power that the other party controlled was just ordinary divine power. Although Lu Ming's cultivation level was not as high as the other party's, the other party was suppressed to first-level virtual god level, so he could easily kill him. This was under the premise that he could not use the battle formula. If he could use the battle formula, Lu Ming's abilities would be even more shocking. You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.